He'll really finish you off. Something has moved in with the... It's Jason.
God, Trace, I had this terrible nightmare. I even had a nightmare within the nightmare. God, I must be fucking crazy.
I'm bored out of my skull.
Keep your motors running. We don't want them getting cold.
He said he'd kill you or anybody else that tried to cut out part of his brain.
The two victims, a nurse and an orderly, had been repeatedly slashed with an extremely sharp implement of an undetermined nature, possibly a surgical scalpel.
Hi, this is Laura Park Lincoln from Friday the 13th, Part 7, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
Yeah, indeed you are. Welcome back to The Hysteria Continues. We're on episode number 23, and I don't know where it is, but it's 23 is a magic number in some religion. I don't know. I don't think it's Catholicism or anything like that. But anyway, hopefully this will be a magic episode for us. We're covering the little known but much loved by at least Nathan, The Last Slumber Party from 1987. So we'll be looking to see whether we share the love for that film. We're looking at that a little bit later. We're also going to be obviously looking at our recently seen, and also we're going to be doing our top 3 80s horror movies that aren't slashers, and I think that's going to be quite a fun segment because we're going to get to indulge some of our other interests in the genre from one of our favourite decades. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Well, first up, I shall welcome the podcast's fellow bloodhounds, and first up, Erik from Ireland. How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't care if I'm wasting water.
Oh, what? As in a cat flushing a toilet?
Exactly.
Oh, will that make a return? Who knows?
Will it? I wonder. No?
Well, maybe. Who knows? We'll keep you in suspense.
We shall see, but we shall see.
Indeed. And I hear, Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Justin?
I'm not too bad. I'm a bit knackered, actually, because I had to drive back. Well, I wasn't actually driving, but I was working in Liverpool all day yesterday, and we were driving back down the motorway, going great guns, and then they closed the motorway about 50 miles from home, and some merry prankster had been changing around the when they do those kind of route diversions, like a wrong turn scenario, and somebody had been turning around those the signs into an eternal loop. So everyone was just going round and round and round. And then eventually... I
do have to take it back a little bit. I'm not great. My foot kind of hurts, but other than that, I'm all right.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, I'm glad your foot... Well, your foot shouldn't be shouldn't be stopping you talking, should it?
Only if I stand on it, which I don't intend to do. So, okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, how about you, Nathan? Have you got any ills? Are you okay?
I'm getting over a head cold, so you might hear me sniffling some during this podcast.
Oh, gosh. So, Erik, you're the only one who's kind of fighting fit.
I know, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you are too. You're just a bit annoyed with your little diversion prank.
Well, it was just because because we drove down to somewhere called Stroud, which is kind of about quite a way out the way, and then they closed off the exit to the motorway there. So in the end, we had to hire a taxi to drive us in a convoy out of Stroud, and then get home till gone midnight. So anyway, it's very boring, and we didn't go anywhere like called Three Knobs or anything exciting like that.
Oh,
so, but I do have a little extra thing to play. So if anything comes up in any way double entendre, like obviously Three Knobs, if you were listening to the show ages ago, I can't remember, it's probably episode 3 or 4. We
is it what I think it is?
It's not this. Although that might, if anyone swears.
Is it or Mrs.?
Well, it's not quite. It's this.
Oh. Matron, please. I'm not that kind of doctor.
Oh, matron.
I love it.
There you go.
Yeah,
and I also have a little one of these. Anyway, so in case anything comes up.
So I'm going to go ahead and just say fuck, just so you can get the buzzer again.
Okay. So I can see we start as we mean to go on. So
yeah.
So I'm glad. So we're all in various states of slight delirium and illness and injury, apart from Erik. So we shall see how we go, but it should make the review of The Last Slumber Party even more delirious, I imagine. Before we get to that, should we do some recently seen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Well, who would like to go first? How about you, Erik? What have you been watching?
Okay, well, I watched possibly the worst film I've ever seen in my life, and that's saying something with what is due to come up later in the podcast. But it was a film called Love Bites. It was on the MGM movie channel during the summer, and I recorded it onto the DVR, and I only got around to watching it this week. The reason I taped it is because it stars Adamant, and as you know, I'm a fan of all things 80s. So I recorded it, and it is absolutely dreadful. So dreadful, in fact, it's one of the few films I couldn't finish. I had to, after an hour, I just couldn't take any more. I had to I deleted it to make sure that it was gone forever. He plays a vampire in it, and it's supposed to be kind of a comedy in inverted commas and have romance in inverted commas in it, where he sort of wakes after a 100-year slumber and starts dating this woman from 1993, I think. So, it was dreadful. It was so boring, so incredibly boring. Poor Adamant. It stained his good name, I felt. I don't know if anyone has seen it. I'd never heard of it. It just popped up out of the blue in the listings, and I said I'd give it a whirl.
I think didn't he play a vampire in something else?
Was he in something called Nomads, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen it, but I remember he was in something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. The only other stuff the other horror stuff I've been watching has been my top 3 things, which I won't discuss now.
Okay.
The other stuff I've been watching, and this will be of no relevance to Joseph and Nathan, because I'm sure it didn't make it across the Atlantic. But if I said to you, Justin, I only want to help you, Roland, would you know what I meant?
Grain Chill.
Yes. I found... the Baby Jesus has delivered onto me some seasons of Grange Hill that I've been longing to get my hands on for a long time now, and I've been indulging myself for the last few days.
Well,
it's utterly fantastic.
Yes, well, for our American listeners and anyone else anywhere in the world, and also Joseph and Nathan, the Grange Hill was a kind of 70s. It started in the 70s, didn't it?
Started in 78, yeah.
78, and it's like I can imagine it'd be like, is it Degrassi High or something?
Degrassi Junior High, which was Canadian, I think.
Right, okay, but it'd be that kind of thing, but slightly more gritty, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So it's slightly more gritty, but still a bit frivolous.
Did either of you ever watch The Vicar of Dibley?
Yes, well, bits of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that show, actually.
You like that? Okay.
Well, this is set in Grange Hill as a school, and it's just the merry japes and sometimes more serious plot lines, including heroin addiction, which is coming up soon in the ones I'm watching.
Yeah. And they all did. Didn't they do a song saying "Just Say No"? Was it "Just Say No"?
And they got to go to the White House to meet Nancy Reagan.
I know. What a privilege that must be.
I know. Yeah.
Exciting for both for Nancy and the Grange Hill cast, I'm sure.
Sorry, that was my Ronald Reagan impression.
Oh. See, over here we had Saved by the Bell, which dealt with caffeine pill addiction.
Speaking of Ronald Reagan, now this is a little, it could be a little crude, but have either of you ever purchased the Ronald Reagan commemorative typewriter?
Yeah, I have 3.
It has no memory and no colon. Wait a minute, he's dead now.
He's dead now, yeah. So is Nancy dead?
I think she is. I don't know.
Yeah, the night Ronald Reagan died, well, it was an evening over here, Morrissey was playing a gig in Dublin, and he got the crowd to do a big cheer for the death of Ronald Reagan, and it made, there was uproar in the press the next day.
Morrissey just loves doing stuff like that, doesn't he?
He does, yes.
Did I tell you the time I saw Morrissey? The only time I've ever seen him was another time where, coming back from a work thing, broke down on the motorway, finally got back into Bristol, then had to drive straight up to Swindon to see Morrissey. Got in there just as he came on stage. He did one song and then collapsed and was taken off in a stretcher. What a bastard. Anyway, that bastard.
What a jerk.
How dare
ruined my evening by having some kind of seizure.
They should have had somebody prop him up.
Exactly.
What an asshole.
I know. So you could have said, like, sort of ventriloquist dummy or something, and somebody put their hands up his skirt to make his lips move. So... The old ones are always the best. Anyway, so that probably deserves a little...
Matron, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Anyway, so enough of that. So, Erik, have you seen anything else?
No, I don't want to say anything else that I saw. I did see I saw Home for the Holidays, which is this TV movie that you gave quite a good rating to on Hysteria Lives, starring Sally Field and Julie Harris, who most people know from The Haunting. I know her best as Valian's mother in Knots Landing.
Ooh, Knots Landing.
Yeah. But
Lily May.
Lily May, yeah. I wasn't that hugely impressed with Home for the Holidays, I have to say.
Really?
Oh, really?
Oh.
Okay, I might need to give it another try. I just found it kind of... sort of a nothing happens type of film.
Okay.
Wow.
Right.
But it's setting the mood, you know.
Maybe. I'll give it another whirl.
I think give it another
Joseph should
whirl.
like it because it's pouring rain through the whole movie.
Oh, I love the film. I think it's fantastic.
It's about, what, 1971 or 72, is it?
72.
It's got kind of great proto-slasher, isn't it? I mean, it's got that whole rain slicker thing and the pitchfork. And Sally Field was kind of was first choice, wasn't she, to play Alice in Friday the 13th?
Yes, but I think like she was big box office at the time, so I don't think they had any chance of getting her, really, did they?
No.
No, but I wonder if they'd seen Home for the Holidays, and that was why they thought she would be a good choice. So, I think you should rewatch it. I think I haven't seen it for ages, but I remember liking it very much. So, okay, well, thanks, Erik. How about you, Nathan? What have you been watching?
Let's see. I watched courtesy of our friend Amanda by Night. She recommended it to me, and I watched the made-for-TV movie 5 Desperate Women, which is about these 5 friends who get together and they meet on this island, and there's a killer on the island with them. I don't know if I could really call it a slasher because it doesn't have a high body count. Most of the women survive, but it's certainly one of the cheesiest movies I've ever seen. It's there's one scene where there's a dog, and like one of the women really likes the dog and wants to keep it, and the other one's allergic, so they make the dog go outside, and the dog ends up getting killed by the killer. And the next day when they find it, the woman breaks down and starts screaming at the woman who's allergic, like it's her fault. And then she starts going on about, he was a good little doggy. He was a good little doggy, and he liked me. And it's just such a weird line in that movie. And then another one of my favorite scenes is the killer at one scene has one of the women on the ground and is strangling her to death. And her 3 friends run up and stand off to the side screaming while he's choking their friend. And then they start throwing rocks at him. I mean, I don't think that's going to help very much, especially when some of the rocks are landing just a couple inches from their friend's head, where they could easily have hit her in the head. But it's a really cheesy, funny movie.
What year was it?
Was it like 71 or something?
Okay,
I can't remember.
so
it was early 70s.
Okay, excellent. Well, that sounds interesting. I have to dig that one out. I hadn't heard of that before. Amanda recommended it, so.
It's very cheesy and entertaining, especially the dialogue.
Great. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check that one out. That sounds great. Anything else?
I was trying to think if I watched anything else. I watched that new movie, Wolfman, with Anthony Hopkins, and I did not like it whatsoever. I thought it was extremely boring. It felt like it was 3 hours long.
It's a real misfire, wasn't it? I saw it. I didn't see it at the cinema, but I saw it. I caught it on DVD when it was like £3 or something, really cheap. And it looks great, doesn't it? I mean, the set design and everything's really good, but it just doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, that's what I'll give it. The scenery was amazing, but that's all it has.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything else.
No, it's a shame. Well, no, thanks, Nathan. How about you, Joseph? You watched The Wolfman as well?
Yeah, I also saw The Wolfman, which basically they have no excuse to be so boring because they have such a great, high budget, high caliber actors, and it's just a CGI fest, terrible effects, really boring story. I mean, I want to watch a movie called The Wolfman. I want it to be about wolves, not people sitting around and, bickering over and over. So it sucked. I put that out of my memory. But I also watched a movie called The Tapes. I watched that this morning before we started recording. It's a found footage film, and it royally, royally pissed me off because it has such a great premise. But what it does is it follows these 3 characters who are the most shrill characters I've ever saw on any film. And they sit around, for the movie's like an hour and 20 minutes. So what's that, like 80 minutes? Yeah. For like 70 of those minutes, the whole movie is just them bickering, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And finally, at the last 10 minutes, they run into these Satanists because they're filming. They go into this barn or something, and they think it's a bunch of swingers, and they think it'd be funny to get it on camera. And what they're actually trying to do is get this one girl on camera because she wants to be on Big Brother, and they figure adding that into her audition tape would kind of jazz it up. But they basically have it upon a bunch of Satanists, and at the last 10 minutes things start to happen. But the problem is these characters are so annoying and they're so stupid. They get trapped in this like compound, but the fence that they get out with is like 4 foot high, and they don't want to climb over it. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I have the right shoes to climb over the fence. So that's how they get stuck. Bunch of morons. I hated this film. I hated it.
So it's kind of a little bit like, we're not giving anything away, but the last Slumber Party, the main character in that kind of has a little bit of difficulty making the right choices, isn't she?
A bit, yes.
It's a British film.
Okay.
It came out...
Yeah, Justin, apologise.
I think it came out this year. But it has such a great premise, and it's well made, but the characters are extremely annoying, and I would not recommend it at all.
Okay. But quite a new film, is it?
Yeah, it came out this year, I believe. Okay. Maybe 2010, I can't remember. But it's a found footage film, and I've been on one of those kicks lately. Yeah. So.
Have you watched Nori yet?
No, I cannot find the subtitles I need. I'm still looking for them, but I'm about to just give up and just watch it, just to be watching it.
Okay, well, I might be able to help you out there.
Oh, cool.
But I can't say anything because it probably would be illegal to have a dodgy copy of
the Baby Jesus might be able to help me out.
So, Baby Jesus, I might put in a word with my friend up there or down there, wherever. So, anything else, Joseph?
Yeah, I caught up on the, I don't know if you've got it over there, but the television series American Horror Story.
I've been watching that, yeah.
It's not bad. I kind of like it. It's sleazy, it's kind of cheesy, over the top, but I don't know. It's really entertaining. It's kind of like a soap opera with ghosts.
No, I really like it. I mean, Jessica Lange is amazing, isn't she? In it?
Yeah, she's totally, Southern drawl, over the top kind of thing going on.
Well, I kind of knew it was going to be slightly different when she said her daughter's got Down syndrome, and she sort of says to her new neighbours, "Oh, don't mind the mongoloid." And you just kind of don't expect, Jessica Lange to say that, or for them, to have that kind of an American TV series. I knew it was going to be slightly sort of quirky and different. And we're only up to episode 3 in the UK.
Okay. Well, I won't spoil anything. I'm on number 8. I just finished number 8, I believe it was. There's I think 5 left before the season is over, but I'm really enjoying it. It's really just really entertaining. It's not great, but it's entertaining.
I can't see how they can stretch it out to a second season, because they're talking. It's been recommissioned, isn't it, for a second season?
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing, I don't know if it's true, but I'm hearing every season is going to be a different story. So I don't know if it's going to be a new cast or I don't know what, but I guess we'll see.
Okay. Well, no, it's I'm quite enjoying it. You've been watching it, Nathan and Erik.
No.
Yes.
Everyone was saying how brilliant The Walking Dead was, and I watched that first season and wasn't enthused. So
The Walking Dead sucks.
I enjoyed The Walking Dead.
Did you?
Yeah. No, I'm watching season 2 of that at the moment, and I've read all the graphic novels, so I don't know if that kind of made it more sense for me, but I'm enjoying it. I'm easy to please.
Oh well. My problem with it is they got all these zombies running around, and these people sit around talking about fishing, and they start crying and you slept with my husband. It's just so silly.
But that's kind of what would happen, though, wouldn't it? I'm sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sit around bickering about sleeping with someone's husband.
Well,
but whatever.
But maybe we would.
Maybe.
Yeah. So have you watched anything else, Joseph?
No, it's been kind of lax this week. So.
Okay. Well, I just quickly the roundup of I've watched, and I haven't really watched very much in the way of horror at the moment. I've just been too busy with other things. But one film we did get from Love Film, which is, I say, it's a bit like Netflix in States, was the kind of newish Hammer film, and obviously Hammer Studios is trying to have a resurgence, and they did the remake of Let the Right One In. I think it's called Let Me In, wasn't it? Which was pretty good actually. And I just saw The Resident with Hilary Swank, which is kind of basically it's do you remember Sliver with Sharon Stone? Or back her kind of Basic Instinct follow-up, and it's one of the Baldwin brothers is kind of watching her soaping her breasts in the bath and things like that, and basically it's just a reworking of that, with Hilary Swank hires an apartment in Manhattan, and her landlord, who's played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who's kind of better known as the father of Jensen Ackles' character in Supernatural, He is kind of basically the pervy neighbour who's just built all around the apartment kind of spy holes and watches Hillary basically flicking the bean and changing her pants and all this kind of thing. And his father is Christopher Lee, so it's a bit of a nod to the old Hammer stuff. And it's got Lee Pace in it, who I really like. He's a really good actor. But he's really wasted as Hilary Swank's ex-boyfriend, who just kind of gets dispatched pretty quickly. It's kind of... It's a real misfire, actually. It looks okay, but it's a bit of a vanity project for Hilary Swank, and it's kind of one of those films that if it was done by Italians in the 70s, it would go so much further, because there's a scene in it where Jeffrey Dean Morgan is watching Hilary Swank have a wank, as it were, in the bath, but you don't know. The only reason you know she's down there, gusset typing under the water, is because one hand's under the water, and you don't see anything. Matron. Well, let's see if maybe that would. But yeah, it's just kind of.
Matron, please! I'm not that kind of doctor.
Yes. But it's just kind of and then he gets, when she goes out, he gets into the bath and has a wank. It just seems the place where everyone masturbates, and but you just see him undoing his flies, and then it cuts, and so it's up to your imagination. So it's all this kind of very kind of playing it safe, whereas the Italians would have taken it a lot further, or the Americans would have taken it a lot further in the 70s, and it just kind of, and of course it ends exactly how you imagine it will end, which is a big showdown in the house, being chased around. It turns into a bit of a slasher movie showdown, with Hilary Swank being chased around by her psycho landlord, and it's okay. It's a fairly pleasing way to pass an hour and a half, but it's not, coming from Hammer, it's not particularly exciting or well done. And the other film I haven't seen, but I want to see, it's my new kind of holy grail, and I've mentioned this on the forums, is Dark Water. Now,
yes, I want to see that too.
Yeah, there's the Dumb Waiter was another film which came across kind of relatively recently, and these are kind of in the UK. I don't know if you had it in the States, but in the UK back in the pre the 1980s, or probably up until the early 1980s, there was also a supporting feature, and used to be like a short film, between 10 minutes and half an hour maybe. So when you went to cinema, there'd always be like a little short film before the main feature, and I don't know why they did that, but it was a kind of way of showcasing sort of new talent, and I kind of guess. So in the late 70s, early 80s, that when I wrote Teenage Wasteland, I kind of bemoaned the fact there was hardly any kind of slash movies made around the kind of golden era, when America was pumping out so many in the early 80s and late 70s. But there seem to be a few of them, these short films, and this one's called Dark Water, not to be confused with the Japanese and Dark Water and the remake. But I kind of, my interest was piqued. There's a fantastic book called 10 Years of Terror, and basically it's a history of 1970s British horror movies, put out by Fab Books in the UK. I think it might be out of print now, but it's a great kind of overview. And Kim Newman, the critic, he wrote a little piece, and it just says it's a creepy little psycho movie with escaped murderer Beams stalking a young couple after hours in a swimming pool. Like the Dumbwaiter, it's a miniature stalk and slasher without the need for an elaborate plot setup, rather on the model of an EC comic suspense story. So, and also bizarrely, again, this probably be lost on you, Joseph and Nathan. It's you probably didn't get Only Fools and Horses, the comedy. I don't know if that rings any bells with you. No, it was very big in the UK, but it was the guy Del Trotter. It's kind of it was his wife. Is Mrs. Trotter is the person being chased around the pool, and I actually wrote to Kim Newman. He was good enough to get back to me. He obviously saw it back in 1979 and 1980, but he said it's never got a release. But the British Film Institute is occasionally putting out these films to support other features on DVD. So I might get in contact with them and see if there's any way we can actually get to see it, because it's kind of my on my want list, really, because I think it'd be.
If you get a copy, let me know. I would really love to see that.
Yeah, I will do. And the other ones we'll just touch on very briefly is I watched Night School, the new release that was put out. I think it's Warner Brothers. They're kind of it's Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Warner Archive.
Warner Archives, isn't it?
And it's a great print. It's brilliant. And just to give it away, we're hoping to cover Night School in 2 weeks' time in the next show. So we won't go into it in any great detail, but it's definitely a disc worth getting. It's got the trailer on there, but it's got a very good print. So that was good. And also Humongous from Scorpion releasing, which I know Erik's seen. And again, we might be covering that at some point in the future. We're not going to talk about it much now, apart from I was quite disappointed with the picture. I've seen quite a lot of discussion about the DVD release and people saying it's a lot brighter, and it is a lot brighter. It looks, you can see what's going on, but it's very pixelated. It's kind of looks like, if you imagine like a YouTube video that's not, it's kind of blown up too much. So I was watching on a 32-inch screen, so it's not massive screen, but it kind of looked quite pixelated, as if it was kind of a lower resolution that had been blown up. Did you find that, Erik?
I did, yeah, especially with scenes with water or fire. You notice that they have sort of jagged edges rather than smooth edges that they should.
Yeah, which is a shame. I would say we're going to be covering the film hopefully on a podcast in not too distant future, so won't talk about it in a great detail. But it's a shame just because I know certainly apparently their new release of they put a new version of Final Exam is much better looking than the previous release, and also they're putting out a 2-disc special edition of House on Sorority Row. Which I've already got 2 copies of that, but I might have to triple dip on that. But yeah, I don't know what went wrong with this. It also looks like it's taken from a Video Master rather than from a 35mm print. So yeah, so it's mixed, but it's got some, it's interesting to hear the director and what he has to say about the film. But again, we will be covering it in more detail and on another show, so I won't go into any more details. But I think that's me done for Recently Seen. Anything else to add, guys?
Justin, when you were mentioning the short films, I wanted to say that I actually forgot, but I watched Panic, the short film about the woman who picks up the hitchhiker. That is an amazing little 15-minute film. Joseph, you need to get that for Grant, because you and he will both really like it.
It's posted on the forums, isn't it?
It's on YouTube. Like, you can find it the whole episode on YouTube.
Somebody put it on the forums. I was actually going to watch it, and I got sidetracked. But
it's really good.
I'll check that out.
It's got a great little ending too.
Yeah,
I'll put that on
too much weight. But that's
I saw that age 6 in the cinema. Panic.
Did you?
It was on before we got. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. We got Battlestar Galactica released theatrically over here.
Yeah.
The pilot episode, and it played before that, and scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, no, it's great little, and there was lots of those little films, and again, if you ever get a chance to have a look at Fab's 10 Years of Terror, at the back there's about 3 or 4 pages of all these short horror films that were made in the 70s in the UK, and a lot of those would have been shown before the main feature, and a lot of them have never seen the light of day, which is a shame. There's another one called The Lake, which is supposed to... It was compared to Friday the 13th when it came out as a different take on that kind of thing, although I think it's got ghosts in it. But that's another one that's never been released in any... apart from at the cinema at the time, which is one I'd really like to see. So, but if anyone's got any leads on those films and can let us know, then obviously we would be eternally grateful. Great. Well,
actually, Justin, you were the one that posted Panic on the board. You actually posted the YouTube clip, so I will check that out today.
The only trouble with it is that the dialogue doesn't match the lips in part of it. Towards the end, it goes in and out. But it's not too bad.
Download that and resync that. I think I'll do that for Grant's sake.
Yeah. Well, it's also at a certain site that's frequented by Baby Jesus, if you know.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll work too.
Yeah. So. Okay, and that's obviously thepope.com. So,
yes.
Okay, well, I think, should we move on to our top 3 non-slasher 80s horror movies?
Before we do, now that we're talking about these short films, I also posted one. It's like 2 minutes long. Actually, it's 1 minute and 27 seconds. It's called Dark and Lonely Water. It's basically about the dangers of drowning, but it's narrated by Donald Pleasance, and there's like a Grim Reaper like stalking a bunch of kids. It's one of those public service announcements, but it's extremely creepy. Yeah. Did you see that?
I've seen it before.
I have a DVD of public service announcements, and I think that's on it. Yeah.
It's called The Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water.
Yeah. Because we talked about that before, didn't we, on the show? Because we used to see those at school. They used to be a little treat before the summer holidays or something, they'd get us all together and watch those films.
Yeah, watch the kid going up the pylon to collect his frisbee and getting frazzled.
Yeah, it's the early
Wasn't
Final
there one? I
Destinations.
can't remember what it was, but the kid fell into like a wheat thresher and he got grinded up or something.
They were really grisly. I mean, you didn't see. There was one where a kid gets run over by a steamroller, I think, and then all you see is bloody trainer, a shoe rolling down the hill. And stuff like that, and someone gets quicksand. My favourite one when they did it was a cross country run, ticker tape run, and they ran through a train tunnel, and then you see a train coming through the one side, and then you see them walking out covered in blood and being carried, and some of them.
It's called the finishing line.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was kind of very grisly, yes. But they
wasn't there one where like a kid was texting on his phone and walks in the middle of the street and gets mowed down by a vehicle?
They do, yeah. They have done those relatively recently, but yeah, they kind of one off. They've kind of they've done quite. They did one where a little girl gets hit at 30 miles an hour and in slow mo and goes flying through the air, like in a quite balletic kind of thing, where everyone turns around and pretends to scream. So yeah, it's kind of little mini snuff movies for you. So cool. Okay. Well, who knows what will happen when we get to number 2? Anything could happen. It's who knows? Who knows? Anything.
Yeah.
Well, probably not anything, but I think you probably know what will happen. But should we start with Erik? And your number 3.
1986 remake of The Fly. Now, there's a common thread with my top 3 is that they're all sort of gore fests. That wasn't intentional. Just when I'm looking at them this morning, I was going, "Oh, it makes me look like I'm sort of this insatiable 16-year-old boy who just wants to see limbs and body parts falling apart and things." But
you're not.
Well, I'm not 16, but I do have an insatiable desire to see people's bodies being ripped apart. Okay. I have to admit. Okay. Yes. I went this time in my life. Well, I saw The Fly probably about 1988. At that time of my life, I didn't appreciate Cronenberg's earlier films. I found them a bit cold and a bit dull. But he sort of sidestepped even into the mainstream with The Dead Zone and this one, The Fly, which was a big hit. And certainly, for me, it was the perfect monster movie at the time. It was just wall-to-wall gore and nastiness, and Seth Brundle is merged with the Fly, and the more he transforms, the more disgusting it gets. It plays on everyone's sort of Achilles heel as his body falls apart, including probably the most disgusting bit is an innocuous scene where he pulls his fingernail off. And, on paper, it's probably not the most disgusting scene that could be in the film, but for me, it's the one that makes me go eesh the most. And there's pus and blood, and it's typical Cronenberg, and it has sort of decaying bodies or transforming bodies, but it's incredibly mainstream, I'd say, certainly by his standards. And he went back to sort of his old ways, if that's the right phrase, with his subsequent films after this, like Dead Ringers and Naked Lunch. And I kind of I didn't lose interest. I'd say I did enjoy those films, but for me, it's sort of his early ones up to The Fly are the ones I really, really like. This one, terrific. I actually indeed even like the sequel, which everyone seems to hate, The Fly 2, released 3 years later. Again, it had much the same wall-to-wall gore, but what it lacks and what The Fly has is The Fly is a really, really interesting drama going on in the background, and that makes me sound a bit poncy, I know, but I mean, I find The Fly kind of sad in the end. The way it finishes is, it brings a lump to the throat. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. It's very rare for a horror film to do that. I can think of only one that off the top of my head, and that's Carrie, that has that effect on me. But I always find The Fly really, really sad in the end.
What about the last Slumber Party? Does that not have the same effect?
Well, that touches me on many levels, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love The Fly. I need to see it again.
I haven't seen it for ages. I think I saw it at the cinema, but I can't remember.
Yeah, it arrived on cinema screens just slightly before I started getting into horror, so I caught it first on. It was sort of newish out on video at the time. Yeah, that's The Fly.
And isn't there a sequel? Hasn't he written a sequel to it?
Yeah, there's some news about is it a sequel or a remake or another. I'm not sure.
He's written a sequel, isn't he? So he's actually he wants to do it rather than someone wanting to remake it. Although, of course, it was a remake, wasn't it? In name, not name only, but kind of the Vincent Price movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, in the Vincent Price movie, of course, what happens is they swap heads. The fly, and the man sort of just swap heads. Whereas in this one, they're merged together, and he slowly sort of metamorphosizes into one. Looking back on it, I was watching it last weekend. The fly suit itself is very creaky looking. You can sort of see the seams, and it's not the fantastic Oscar-winning special effect that it was back in 1986. But I mean, story-wise, and like Gina Davis, Jeff Goldblum, John Getz are all fantastic in it. So they really like keep it together, I think.
Yeah, it was funny, isn't it, with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis and stuff, and how they've kind of not vanished exactly, but they were big.
They were huge stars in the 80s, yeah. And they.
But it's
so was Toya.
So was Toya. Well, I wouldn't say she's a huge star. I would say.
Oh boy.
But kind of, Butlin's level maybe. Joseph, should we go on to your number 3?
Sure. For my number 3 pick, Fright Night. It's a film I've seen numerous times, and it really never fails to entertain. I think one of the best things about Fright Night, it's kind of a rear window with vampires, and typically the vampire himself, Jerry Dandridge, played by the Chris Sarandon, he kind of oozes suave and charisma, and he has a sort of a quiet menace about him in the more low-key scenes, and yet he's kind of a capable actor and able to do the more over-the-top stuff as well. Of course, I can't fail to mention, Roddy McDowall as the vampire hunter, Peter Vincent, and the 3 leads, especially Stephen Jeffries as Evil Ed, I find quite likable. And it's really FX heavy in the end, and none of it looks too, creaky as, compared to today's standards. It really holds up well. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Fright Night. It's kind of... I think a lot of the films that I know, obviously, what we've chosen, a lot of them are sort of, typically fun 80s horror movies, aren't they? Which Fright Night is one of those.
Popcorn films, almost.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's got its tongue in its cheek, but it's still horrific. It does comedy, but the comedy doesn't completely take over, does it? And so it knows when to thrill and when to be funny. I've never seen the sequel because it's never come out on DVD in the UK. Has anyone seen Fright Night 2?
Yeah, I saw Fright Night 2 in the cinema, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was fairly decent. I don't think it was as good as the first, but I don't remember it being awful. I mean, like you, I haven't seen it since, I don't think, which would have been 1988 or 89 it was out.
Because what about the...
saw it once. I don't remember much about it. The only thing I remember is I think it might have been a werewolf, got his fingers slammed in a window, and he fell off like a story house.
How about the remake? Has anyone seen the remake?
I didn't see the remake, no.
No, I didn't, because it was only in 3D, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it had... who's that Antichrist, that Irish actor?
Colin Farrell.
Colin
Farrell's in it, yeah, so...
Well, you don't like it?
No, I have an Alka-Seltzer on standby every time I watch a Colin Farrell movie.
Oh, really? Was there any reason? You just don't like him?
Just don't like him, no.
Okay. We might probe deeper.
Yeah. Analyze him.
Matron, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
So
speaking of Matron, you do know that Stephen Jeffries went on to be a gay hardcore porn star.
Yes, I know.
Well,
and there was lots of
Sam something was his alter ego.
Sam Ritter.
Yeah.
Who takes up?
I'm not embarrassed to say that.
You would know that. Of course you would know that.
I've seen a few of them. I ain't gonna lie.
I remember Empire were doing sort of a Where Are They Now feature, Empire magazine. You get that in the States, don't you?
Yes.
Empire magazine. They were doing a Where Are They Now on Stephen Jeffries, and I showed a still shot of one of his gay porn movies, and they had underneath that typical line of dialogue from his film, which was, "Ooh, I love the way your hot balls feel against my smooth ass."
I remember that.
But he was one of those urban legends, wasn't it? That he was dead. He died of AIDS, and he's not dead at all, is he?
No.
But it was kind of one of those things that's said so often that people believe.
He's still pumping along.
I'm sure he is. Yes, pumping away. So, well, that's Fright Night. Anything else to say about Fright Night?
I love it. Great movie.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for your choice. Nathan, here's your number 3.
Society. And I often think that this movie gets kind of overlooked. I don't really see much ever getting mentioned about it. I think it's a really interesting take on, like kind of a metaphor between the upper and lower classes. And I also like the way it plays with the whole thing of a teenager feeling alienated from their family. And I like the way the director kind of plays at the beginning with, is he just paranoid or is there really something weird going on with his family? Because you get little glimpses of things like, for instance, there's a scene where he goes into the bathroom and he kind of sees his sister in the shower, but her head is turned around all the way, like washing her back. It's really weird scene. And you kind of wonder if it's all in his head, but, of course, that they're going to go all out for the ending, and, they do. I mean, it's a really disgusting and sick, unforgettable ending. But that's my number 3 is Society.
That's a Brian Usna film, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
He's really good at that over-the-top kind of go-for-broke stuff, towards the end of his films. Like he's, what was it, God, it's on the tip of my tongue, the movie he did. His most famous one. What was it?
What, Reanimator?
Yeah, Reanimator there.
No, that's Stuart Gordon.
That's Stuart Gordon?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Brian Usna is the producer, and he directed Bride of Reanimator.
Yes.
Right.
But they kind of are quite closely intertwined, aren't they?
Are,
so,
yeah.
So I saw...
Society is great. It's got, of course, Billy Warlock in it, who's the son of Dick Warlock. And Billy Warlock appears so briefly in Halloween 2.
Oh, is that him?
Does he?
With the,
Really? As
with
who?
the razor blades?
He goes up and asks the sheriff about Ben Tramer. They say they haven't seen him all night and they're worried about him, blah, blah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's not the one who speaks. He's the one who's with the guy who speaks. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I didn't know that. Well, a little bit of trivia for us and listeners.
There we go.
I saw Society at the cinema when it came out, and I was in my first year of college, and I took about 20 people with me to go and see it. And we just started college, and we didn't really know each other very well. And we just in the class I was in, I said, "Oh, let's go and see a film." And they're all quite straight in both senses of the word. And I just remember at the end of the film, they all turned and looked at me as if I was a bit strange for making them watch Society. But then
I think Society is terrific.
Yeah, it's great. But I think they probably weren't expecting, because it is quite an odd film, isn't it? For a mainstream horror movie.
It is, particularly that last 10 minutes or whatever it is.
The shunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on Showtime like in '91, and it was the first time I saw it. It was like late at night, and I only caught like the last part of it, so I immediately wanted to go rent it, and I did, and I loved it. I love it. It's a great movie.
I remember seeing like all the stills from it in Fangoria or whatever magazines, and when I finally got to see it, I really liked the way it built up quite slowly. I mean, you don't really get to this, screaming mad George effects till the final sort of 20 minutes or so.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your number 3, Nathan. We're coming ever closer to our number 2s. And I'm sure Cameron Perry, one person will be very happy what's coming up. But here's my number 3. Yeah, it was Dr. Butcher MD, or known across the pond in the UK and probably the rest of the world as Zombie Holocaust. It's a little bit cheap, this one, because I actually wanted to do Zombie Flesh Eaters until Erik ruined my fun by reminding me it was 1979. But in reality, the whole thing, I was just talking briefly, but it's an example of the early 80s and late 70s, I kind of guess, Italian zombie movies, which I adore. Zombie Holocaust is a great fun film, because I don't like the cannibal films for obvious reasons. We talked about it before because of the animal snuff, and the zombie movies don't. I don't think any of them have got anything. It's all very much kind of gore, but very fake-looking gore, but usually very graphic. And I think this is the one that's got all the kind of dong sort of sounds whenever they zoom in on something, and it's really kind of overdone. And there's the great scene where the hospital orderly jumps from the window in the hospital and lands on the floor, and his arm flies off because it's obviously a dummy, and it was such a cheap production. They could only do it once. So even though it's so obvious that this arm flies off about 20 foot, they left it in. It's got great moments of outboard motors, the faces of zombies and things like that. And I also watched Burial Ground the other night with the great Peter Bark, who with the eternal line, "Mama, this cloth smells of death."
What a weird little thing he is. He's a thing. He's not even human.
He was 25. I looked that up. He was 25 when he played that role.
Ooh,
and he had 3... he played something like a Boy Scout in a film before that, and he was in something else after. I don't know what he does now.
If he ever came to my house, I'd kick him in the head. He annoys me.
I'd be scared.
I would be scared. I would be very scared.
I find him more scary than annoying.
He's a little troll. What is he?
Why are you mean to him? I don't understand.
You're mean to Hans Mole Man.
Oh, well, that's different. He deserves it.
He is Hans Mole Man. He's the real life version of Hans Mole Man.
Who's Hans Mole
He's
Man?
From The Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
Oh, okay, right, okay. But yeah, well, I was trying to think what else to say about it, because it's such a wide genre. I mean, the other ones I love, like Hell of the Living Dead, which was zombie creeping flesh in the UK. And obviously a lot of them were banned here or cut very heavily. In fact, A Burial Ground, when it's released here, I think maybe it's Nights of Terror, had so much cut out of it. I think it was only 40 minutes or something on video. It was kind of, that's back in the day when they butchered things completely. But yeah, I love the zombie movies, and of course the other what's the other one? What's the one with the zombies land on the plane?
Oh, City of the Living Dead.
City of the Living Dead. No.
Or Nightmare City.
Nightmare City, that's the one.
Well, it's known as City of the Walking Dead.
That's
Walking Dead.
And that's got great. I mean, the scene in that where the zombies invade the studio where they're doing a kind of legs and code type dance routine, and then bite the nipples off the dancers is just kind of cheese-tastic, and it's just like it sums up everything that is right and wrong with Italian exploitation and horror cinema of the early 1980s. I could watch them all on a loop. So.
Yeah, there's a great scene in Zombie Creeping Flesh where a SWAT member dresses up in a tutu and does a little dance. Do you remember that one?
I do. Yes. It's great, and right at the end they have the great the effect where one of the characters, they pull her eyeballs out from inside her head, don't they?
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. You just don't get that. Even with the special effects they can do now, they're not that creative. I mean, the Italians were the experts of this kind of thing, and that kind of cheesiness of it, and even back when Lucio Fulci was doing like the real crap like Zombie 3, when the baby zombie, wasn't it, and the flying head zombie and things like that.
Yes,
it's kind of inspired lunacy, which is no way can be qualified as good cinema, but it's still hugely fun. And so yeah, that's my number 3. So are we ready for our number 2s? And I'll take a as a democracy. Do we want what?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Nathan?
Yes.
No. Okay, well, you asked for it.
Oh, I can't hear it. I can't
hear it either.
Oh,
no.
You can't hear it. Oh, no.
It's been censored.
Oh, it's been censored. Oh, no, dear. Well, what can I say? I don't know. I haven't done anything different from last time. Now, that is strange. So...
we're going to have to drop it, I'm afraid, yes.
We may have to drop the cat flushing the toilet. I'm very sorry about this. Maybe it will come back next time. I don't know. So my apologies to Cameron and all other fans of cat flushing the toilet. But we have a few technical issues here on the Hysteria Continues. So while we try and sort those out, Eric's number 2.
John Carpenter's remake of The Thing from Another World, just called The Thing this time. Of course, the story of an alien that crash lands in the Arctic. When he thaws out, he goes on a rampage. I call him he, it should be it really. And he can sort of mimic human form. And he starts infecting each member of this Arctic scientific outpost team of people. Now, this was a film that I wasn't mad on when I saw it first. I enjoyed the special effects, obviously, but otherwise I just found it a bit dull in between the sort of monster sequences. I've done a complete 180 on that ever since. I think the turning point was when I finally got to see it in widescreen when it came out on DVD in the late 90s. I really began to appreciate it. And if there's if there's one filmmaker's work that you need to see in its original form, it's John Carpenter's work. There's such a difference between seeing it pan and scan on VHS and seeing it in a sort of pristine widescreen print. And controversially, I would say that The Thing is my favorite John Carpenter film, even more so than Halloween. so yeah, I know. Somebody get the smelling salts for Justin. Yeah.
I have another John Carpenter film that I like more than Halloween.
Really?
Oh, blasphemy!
But I'll save that for later.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Yeah, I mean, it's packed with sort of tension, incredible special effects that I don't think have dated too badly at all, considering they're, a lot of sort of rubbery 80s special effects look a bit hokey now, but I mean, they do have a certain charm. But these ones I think look particularly good. What dates it more, I think, is that guy who goes around in his roller skates listening to a giant Walkman, and that sort of ancient computer that McCready is playing chess on sort of dated more heavily than the special effects do. But I think it's terrific. There's the standout scene for me doesn't even really involve the monster. It's where McCready is testing everyone's blood to see if they are the thing or not, and it's incredibly tense and really exciting, and it culminates in a great shock effect. I actually got to see this on the big screen about 2 years ago. The local multiplex were showing some retro screenings, things like the Blues Brothers and Ghostbusters, and this was one of them, and it had a brand new spanking 70mm print projected on one of the biggest screens in the multiplex, and it was just absolutely fantastic.
Cool. Okay, what about you guys? Nathan, you've seen The Thing.
Oh, I love it. I think it's an excellent movie. I didn't even think about it, or I might have picked it myself for the top 3.
Yeah, totally skipped over it. It's a very, very great movie. It's my number 4. I'll say it's my number 4.
Okay.
What is this John Carpenter movie you like better? Are you allowed to say yes?
It's Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I like that movie too. Yeah.
It's a childhood thing.
See, mine's The Ward.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Well, you see, I kind of half believe you, going from your history,
I do like The Ward. I do. I think it's a good movie, but I don't like it more than Halloween. I just wanted to shock Justin for a second.
Justin, what do you think of Big Trouble in Little China?
I don't mind it, but controversially, although I like The Thing, I find it a little bit dull. So...
What was that? Harmonized gasps right there.
Yes.
Well, I don't mind it. I like it, but I don't.
You just find it too scary because you're a girl.
Yeah. Well, no, I do remember my story about The Thing is that I was too young to see it in the cinema, but because it was put out by a major studio, who put it out? Was it I can't remember who.
Universal,
yeah. Is that they? I don't think it got cut on video when it came out. In the early 80s, well, 80 maybe 83. So it came out to cinema in 82, didn't it?
Yeah.
And so, because all of the videos that were, post the video nasty thing were coming out so cut that actually when you saw The Thing, I mean, I remember at the time people being so stunned by the special effects, but it was actually a box office failure, wasn't it? When it came out, it flopped. I like it. I watch it, probably watch it every couple of years. I don't dislike it, but I certainly wouldn't put it anywhere near Halloween for me personally. But how about the remake? Has anyone?
Hasn't opened here yet. It opens here on Friday, actually.
Okay.
I'm hearing mixed things. Some people say it's good, and some people say it's too CGI heavy. So I don't know. I'll probably wait to.
It seems
from the trailer, it looks more like a remake than a pre. It's supposed to be a prequel, isn't it?
Yeah, but it looks apparently it's like shot for shot almost.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't just remake it, because again, the funny thing is, it's a remake, isn't it? Of The Thing was a remake, obviously. So some, but I haven't. Have you actually seen The Thing from Another World?
I have, yes.
I have, yes, a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't really have a huge fondness for those 50s movies, I have to say. It makes me sound really shallow, I know, but...
I don't either.
I think
I like them. I'm not crazy about them, but, once or twice a year I can watch a couple of them.
But do you think it's that kind of our vintage, as it were? Because
I think so. Yeah.
I think the best 50s. I think it's 50s. Is the Night of the Demon with the demon at the end, the big demon at the end.
That's great. I think it's. Yeah. I mean, even I wasn't alive in the 1950s, so I think it's something to be said. I mean, it also makes you think that the people, like the kids of today, like the 10-year-olds now who are growing up with interest in horror movies. Are they going to be looking back at 80s horror movies and just going,
true.
I'm not particularly interested in those because they don't do anything for me? It's possible. I don't know. But such blandness around at the moment, it's going to the 80s just seemed like a haven. 70s and 80s seemed like for me anyway, the real the best of the best. But I think certainly at the time, during the 1980s and the 1970s, I'm sure people who loved the 1950s horror movies were really outraged and annoyed at what was coming out, because certainly the old vintage Fangorias I've got, the letters pages in the early 80s are going how horror's gone downhill, and films like Friday the 13th are rubbish and not a patch on the 1950s films.
And now we're pretty much saying the same thing about films like Saw and Hostel and things of that nature. Yeah, so it's just a cycle. You're a product of your own time.
Absolutely. So what goes around comes around. But But moving on to other 80s stuff, I think, Nathan, you're going to be taking us in a slightly different direction, or certainly to a different continent. So here's Nathan's number 2. Hold on. No, Joseph, I was going to do you next, wasn't I? Sorry.
You need to play Kenneth Williams there.
Nathan.
Yes, I know.
Mitch, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Okay. I'm going to...
Now you can do Joseph.
For my money, Return of the Living Dead is and always will be my all-time favorite zombie film. I'm not a huge zombie person, but for me, that movie just fires on all cylinders. It kind of mixes humor and horror like no one else's business. Equally horrific, equally hilarious. And I can really watch the trifecta of Gulager, Don Calfa, and James Karen doing their modernized take on the Three Stooges for hours. The one thing that sets the film apart from many of its type is that it pays as much attention to its broadly drawn characters as it does the zombies and the effects that drive them. So for that, I just kind of had to conclude that as my number 2 today.
Okay, well, I absolutely adore Return of the Living Dead. I really love it. It's one of my favourite 80s films as well. I probably would have chosen it if you hadn't chosen it already, Joseph. I remember seeing it again. I can't remember if I saw it at the cinema, but I remember seeing it with friends, and we were so excited to go and see the sequel. And that was a big mistake, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah,
I actually don't mind the sequel.
I love it.
I wouldn't say I love it, but
I just think compared to the original, it was just because I think actually the sequel was the second horror movie I saw at the cinema. The first one was Nightmare on Elm Street. And the sequel, I was well underage. We got in, I think I've spoken about this before. We got in because we had someone working there. What?
The sequel was in 1988, and I happen to know what age you were in 1988.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is that it was the sequel was the first film that I got in legally to see.
Sorry.
So when we went to see that, the only other horror film I'd seen, 18 or X certificate, was Nightmare on Elm Street when I was underage, and we snuck in. And so I think I saw Return of the Living Dead on video, and then we were really excited to go and see the sequel at the cinema, and then we saw it, and then weren't very excited afterwards. So that's what
I have
I think.
Question for you, Justin. Did you like Return of the Living Dead because it has like a gothy character in it? And she's always talking about fantasizing about being killed.
Well, she's not really gothy. I mean, she's kind of gothy in a kind of punky way.
In a Susie kind of way.
Not really, no, because she wasn't. She always looked more to me like an American punk kind of. They're quite different to the UK punks. But she was gothy. She was gothy-ish, but the goths in the UK didn't look like that. But I think they probably did in California.
They did think like that, and they did dance around naked on gravestones, fantasizing about being killed.
And they talked about this. You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Yeah, well,
that's what Justin said.
As he waved his big hair in the breeze.
Yeah.
See, we had to do this because we did this on Facebook, me and Erik, so we had to bring it out into the open.
Yeah. I thought you'd really relate to Linnea Quigley's character, Justin.
Well, not. I mean, I must admit, I probably have in my time danced in naked, just apart from leg warmers on a grave somewhere in my time. I don't remember. Maybe I did. Maybe I have. But I just like the whole movie. I just thought it was a.
Has anyone seen the new DVD More Brains? I got it there a few weeks back. It's the documentary. Yeah, it's done like. It's done like His Name is Jason or Never Sleep Again. It's sort of a 2-hour documentary just solely on the first film. And then it has some DVD extras discussing parts 2 and 3.
No, I'd love to see that.
No, it's really good. It's not as good as Never Sleep Again, but it's certainly well worth watching. And because there's a lot of bitchiness in it.
I was there. What, people bitching about each other?
Yeah, there was the original effects guy was sacked because they weren't happy with his work, and they say that, and quite bluntly.
Nathan and I have met most of the cast of Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, you've met Miguel Nunez as well.
Yeah, bar a few of them. I mean, we've met just about all of them almost.
Yeah, and there's one who was a stripper who got a role in it. What was her name? She has some funny name. She's one of the punks.
She's got breast cancer now, isn't she? And she's
Jewel Shepherd.
Yeah, Jewel. That's her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got. So she's been.
A lot of people. Yeah, they don't have a lot of nice things to say about her.
Oh, really?
Oh, she was nice. She seemed nice to me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sounds interesting. Sounds interesting. I have to purchase that. So. No, I mean I will. I mean I'm surrounded by DVDs. Good. I have the humongous DVD and the Night School DVD. So I'm not a friend of Baby Jesus. So I do spend my money most of the time. So okay, well we've gone past the hour mark. So we've been chatting for quite a while. About halfway through our top threes. Nathan,
Demons Part 2. Featuring a lot of growling and roaring, as I'm sure you can tell from that trailer. Now don't get me wrong, I love the first Demons. I think it's awesome, but there's just something about the sequel. I love the fact that it's set in a high-rise apartment building, and there's a huge wide variety of characters getting picked off by these demons. And I mean, and of course, Bobby Rhodes makes another appearance as the trainer in the gym. And he is amazing in this movie. I love how he takes charge. I just wish he'd survive. And I don't know. I think it's just a really entertaining, gory, fun movie. And it's like once the action gets started, it doesn't let up until the end. So I could never say that this movie's boring because it's the furthest thing from boring, in my opinion. And, of course, it's got Sally in it, who I adore. I mean, she's hilarious with her little temper tantrum at her party. I think Eric's better at quoting that than I am, though.
She's fantastic, isn't she? She's like,
yes.
Jacob, and you invited him here? Well, you can just leave then. Why don't you just leave?
Wow, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
And also Demons.
What do you guys think of the sequel?
Love it. Really great fun.
It's coming out on DVD or Blu-ray, I think, isn't it? I think Arrow are going to be putting out both of them on Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah,
I still think the first film is a little better, but I do love the sequel.
The sequel's
as
cheesier,
long as you like
isn't it?
The sequel is what, sorry?
Cheesier. It's much cheesier than...
cheesier,
I mean,
yeah. It's hard to be cheesier than Demons, but Demons 2 manages it.
It does manage it. What I really like about... because a lot of the 80s Italian movies, the mid to late 80s Italian movies, they kind of drowned themselves out with heavy metal, which... sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and it kind of works quite well actually in Demons. It didn't work in opera, I didn't think, Dario Argento's opera, but in the sequel to Demons they actually took a completely different route, didn't they, and went with kind of gothy, a kind of gothy. And
they have the Smiths are in there at Sally's party playing in Panic.
Yeah, which is which is a very witty kind of thing. But I think it's was it Dead Can Dance and the Cult?
Dead Can Dance.
Yeah, and the Cult Rain, and it's actually the music's used in quite a witty way in the sequel, which I thought was quite unusual, really. For
I think those movies spend a lot of their budget on getting the soundtracks because they have massive soundtracks.
Mm.
And the effects.
Yeah,
and, it's like the demon. Was it a demon little boy?
Yeah,
yeah. So.
Oh, and our friend Tracy from Body Count is in Demons too.
Oh, is she?
Nancy Briley. She plays the pregnant lady, isn't it?
Well, then why didn't she say something when she called in?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, maybe she didn't know we'd be talking about it. Maybe she'll call in again. Well, if you're listening, please call in again. Because we've only got one call this week, so we
Tracy.
need more calls.
Call in again, Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy, in air quotes. Okay, right, well, thank you, Nathan.
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
All right, well, I do apologise again for the technical difficulties which are keeping the cat away from the toilet, but... I don't know what it is, and I can't do anything about it at the moment, but maybe in post-production I can do something. But anyway, here's my big number 2. Reanimator from 1985. It's one of my favourite mid-80s horror movies, directed by Stuart Gordon. I watched it again recently, and it's still just an enormous amount of fun. it's kind of that perfect balance which they seem to be able to do in the 80s of fun and gore, and it was slightly tongue-in-cheek but done with a straight face. There's not kind of mean-spiritedness to it at all. It's kind of it's just fun all the way. It's about as much fun as you can have, with lots of corpses and headless kind of lingus and all those kind of things. But certainly in the UK, when it came out on video, it was cut very heavily. It was probably cut at the cinema, actually. I'm pretty sure I know you don't actually see the kind of the naked, the severed head kind of lingus of Barbara Crampton, but you certainly implied, and I think that was cut out in the UK release. So I know it got like a uncut release in the States when it was on at the cinema, unrated, and probably on video as well. But when I actually got to see it for the first time, even though it's cut, it's still a good enough movie for me to really enjoy it. And then, of course, now, within the last 10 years or so, of actually seeing it uncut, it's just brilliant. I just really love it. It's one of those 80s movies that I can come back to, year on year. Not exactly watching on a loop, but every time I watch it, I get a kick out of it. So, yes, that's me and Reanimator. And I presume, is there any dissenting voices? I presume you'll quite enjoy it.
I love it. I've actually seen it all the way through.
Yeah. Have any of you...
Did somebody say they've never seen it all the way through?
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Oh. What?
I'm serious. I haven't seen it all the way through. I've only seen the last half, which I liked.
Wow. Gosh.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, Justin, getting back to just gloss over that point. Getting back to... I never thought it was cut on VHS over here. I can't be sure. I just remember it thinking it was really, really gory at the time. But obviously it must have been cut.
I think there were things like, the exploding eyes at the beginning, that wasn't in there, and there was quite a few, the drill bit coming out of the zombie that wasn't in there, and there were various bits and pieces. I think it was still very gory, because I kind of guess it's one of those films, if you cut out all the blood, you would have a half-an-hour movie, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I think they did cut out quite a lot of bits and pieces. I mean, maybe it's my mind playing tricks on me, but this came out...
It's probably more my mind playing tricks on me, because I went through a long phase of not seeing it from the late 80s to maybe when I got it on DVD about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was probably that.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, Nathan, that's your homework. Hopefully, maybe do one of your film evenings. Watch Reanimator all the way through.
Oh, yes, I will.
Yeah, excellent. Good boy. Okay. Well, let's go on to our number ones. And Erik,
The Evil Dead, which is Sam Raimi's 1982 debut film. Very cliched story. It's 5 kids in a cabin, 4 of which become possessed by a demonic force in the woods, leaving poor Ash, played by Bruce Campbell, to fight his way to daybreak, hopefully, and escape. This was the first VHS I ever rented. It was the second horror film I ever saw, the first being Halloween 2. So I've got huge nostalgic ties to The Evil Dead. But I mean, nostalgic ties aside, I still think it's a terrific film. I watched it last night, lying in bed, eating a bag of crisps. It still holds up, even though I've seen it about 400 times at this stage. It was one that came with a huge reputation. I saw this in about 1987, 88. I remember my sister and her friends discussing it a few years before, and it sounded like the most amazing film ever. And it certainly lived up to its hype, even though what I saw was a slightly cut version. It wasn't the hideously cut version that came out a few years later in the UK. This was missing maybe about a minute of footage that I never actually got to see until it came out in DVD in the late 90s. But it's the ultimate case of style over substance, because there really is no plot and no characters to speak of in the film, and imagine that the script was fairly sparse, which is probably why Sam Raimi had to do a trial movie called Within the Woods to try and get investors interested, because if he was doing it on the script alone, there probably would be nothing there. I mean, the script, I'd say, was 20 pages, and a lot of it was just descriptions of heads melting and eyeballs being popped and things like that. I love its rough around the edges feel. I know probably a new audience to it, a modern audience, probably wouldn't be able to appreciate the rubbery fake gore and all that, but I think it's exhilarating. It's exciting, it's pulsating, it's non-stop. I mean, it does take a little bit of time, not a huge amount of time to get going. There's the first 15-20 minutes, and then it just keeps going and going until the end, and it's quite an astonishing feat for a film with so little plot to be so unrelentingly entertaining from start to finish. It's a filmmaking masterclass, in my opinion, and should be taught in schools.
Well, Erik, you know, you said I couldn't have zombie flesh eaters. Well, technically, The Evil Dead is a movie from the 1970s, isn't it?
Well, it was started filming in December 1979 and finished principal photography in January of 1980.
Wow,
and then there was another year and a half or so of inserts being shot and was not released until 1982. So, up yours.
I'll let you off. Ooh.
Well, I imagine... Now, if I go and do some research, Zombie Holocaust was 1980. I imagine that principal photography for that was probably 1979 as well.
I very much doubt it, Erik.
I very much do not doubt it.
Cat fight.
Yeah.
Susie's wonderful toy is crap. Anyway.
Sorry?
So, no, nothing. You have to play it back. Won't you? So,
I hate you.
You hate me?
Yeah, I hate you as much as Sally hates Jacob.
I've got this. So if I end up dead, then we've got this on tape. You'll be fingered by the long arm of the law.
Yeah. Do you know what it's like? You're like Judd Nelson in The Breakfast Club.
Please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
You're like Judd Nelson in The Breakfast Club to my Molly Ringwald. You're just being mean to me because you want to shag me.
Enough of your ring, thank you.
Sorry, enough of my what?
Enough of your Ringwald. One thing I was going to say about The Evil Dead, just getting back on topic, was that...
Justin, are you a virgin?
Am I a virgin? No, and I have just watched The Breakfast Club, actually, so I know...
you understand the reference. Yeah.
I do, yes.
Answer the question, Justin.
I'm not. I'm going to...
Easy, it's only one question.
I'm going to tell an interesting anecdote from the extras from The Evil Dead, because I just bought the Blu-ray for £4. And one of the weird things, actually, with the Evil Dead is that because when it got really good release, because it was one of those films that got copied, and people saw it on like nth generation video, and it actually added to it because a lot of the special effects are quite hokey now. Like you can see up the sleeve of the demons, and you can see inside their mouths, so kind of they're all covered in gore and stuff, but their mouths are perfectly
clean. You can see tubes pumping blood and things, yeah.
Exactly, and so when you actually saw it on really crappy video, it actually looked more scary because it looked more real in some ways. But the thing that made me laugh, they did. I think the documentary was from maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and they spoke to the ladies of the Evil Dead who do a lot of the conventions. And is it Eileen Sandwich or something?
Ellen Sandwich. Yeah.
And she said, you know, because she's in the famous scene where she gets raped by the trees. Mm. And she was saying, and I don't know if you saw it in the extras, Erik, but she said she didn't know they were going to literally stick a stick up her vagina. Well, not up her vagina, but certainly between her legs. And she said, I didn't know they were going to do that. They did that in post-production. And I can't believe that they would have had the money to do that in post-production. Can you believe that? You know the shot?
No, I can't, because it's just after that scene, you see her writhing as if she's enjoying it.
Yeah.
As well, so...
They couldn't have done that, could they? I mean, I just think but I think maybe she's just a bit embarrassed, you know.
Yeah, because she went into kind of exile for a while after the film, and she's only re-emerged recently-ish in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Mm. Right. Well, say we almost came to blows over that. So...
she signed my autograph, Nathan, stay out of the woods.
Oh, did she?
Did she? Ellen Sandweiss.
Mm-hmm. Ellen, yeah.
Well, in case you get a stick to your nether regions. She knows what she's talking about.
I don't want that, because of splinters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get that kind of wood, do they?
Can I just add one thing? When I watched The Evil Dead first as a 14-year-old, I found it really, really terrifying. And I was watching it with my dad, and he was laughing. And I couldn't understand why.
Yeah.
That's how naive I was.
Yeah, I still think it's quite scary. There's bits in it I think are really scary, and of course, it's scary in itself. How many of these films have either been remade or are in the process? Because obviously, The Evil Dead is the next one on the kind of the remake train, isn't it? And I don't think they've got an Ash character in the remake. I think
they're not doing an Ash character.
No,
because apparently it's all new characters, from what I hear.
It's going to be shite, isn't it?
Straight from Beverly Hills, I'd say. And
I'd rather them not, because
Captain in their Jimmy Choos.
His character's so iconic, no one could really, pull that off. So it's better that they just leave it alone.
So
it'd be almost like having somebody else play Freddy Krueger,
I know.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope that never happens.
Or if somebody else played Jason.
I know.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Michael Myers.
It'd be weird to have somebody different play Jason.
That would be so weird.
Right. Okay. Well, are we Evil Deaded out? Shall we go on to Joseph's big one?
Yes.
Take it away, Joseph.
Yeah, you thought you were Evil Deaded out, but apparently not. Many would really say that it's blasphemous to pick Evil Dead 2 over the original film, but not only is this my favorite non-slasher film today, it's my favorite horror film in general. I have a real history with this movie, starting back to when it was first released to clunky VHS back in 87 or 88, I believe it was. Watching it with my family and a friend of my father's in particular who got a royal kick out of it, and the both of them did their darndest to kind of reenact many of Bruce Campbell's mannerisms in an attempt to be, humorous. So that always stuck with me. But, I think I rented this film 50 times in the first 2 years of its release, and it's one of those rare horror comedies that, gets both genres right. It's really over the top, but at the same time, it's, it's horrific. And I especially love that it ends on a predestination paradox time travel cliche. I never really tire of this movie. And in fact, I may watch it again tonight. And that is my number one.
Great. Okay. Nathan, you've seen this, haven't you? Presumably.
I think that Evil Dead 2 is an amazing film, but I'm always going to prefer the first one.
Okay. What about you,
Yeah,
Erik?
I'd be with Nathan on that. As much as I love Evil Dead 2, I think it's completely fantastic. I think the first one slightly edges it, but I completely understand why Evil Dead 2 would be Joseph's favourite film of all time. Well, it's just unrelentingly entertaining, as I said about Evil Dead. I mean, to say the fact that it focuses slightly more on comedy than horror would be probably why I prefer the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, same here. I did see this in a cinema, and I remember it having the audience really into it, and especially the scene where the head gets stamped on and the eyeball flies out.
Yeah, love that scene.
In his mouth, and I just remember the whole audience just erupted in screams and laughter, and it's that kind of memory sticks with me. I haven't actually seen The Evil Dead for a long time. Actually, I'm trying to Evil Dead 2, sorry, for quite a while. I don't own it even, so I need to. Is there a good version out?
Well, it's just been released.
So many versions out.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
It's just been released on a really good Blu-ray edition, but it's region locked in the States.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, I've got Anchor Bay's. It came in a special tin, like a little biscuit tin. And it's really good. It's got a great documentary, a great commentary track on it as well.
Okay. And so you can put your jammy Dodgers in there while you're watching.
You could, yeah. Yeah, you could.
Well, you could. I'm just suggesting. I don't know. Or a little finger of fudge or something. I don't know.
Yeah, put my hobnobs in there.
What?
Yeah.
You just said fudge.
Yeah.
It calls for a matron.
Well, it does. But in the UK, there used to be an advert. I would play it on YouTube, and it says, how did it go? Can you remember?
A finger of fudge is just enough to give your kids a treat.
Yes.
Ew.
Oh, sorry. That's
Matron, please. I'm not that kind of doctor.
So.
Yeah, I do believe, though, just before we get off the topic, that Evil Dead is the best party horror movie you can get. Evil Dead 1 or 2. If there's a party gathering of people and they want to throw in a horror film, it's the perfect, one, because it's just fun and doesn't require any break.
Even Army of Darkness is still good. I think it's the lesser of the three.
It's definitely the lesser of the three. I remember being bitterly disappointed with Army of Darkness when it came out, but it has grown on me a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Right.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
I like it less the more I see it.
Oh, really?
I loved it when I was young. All the humor and everything was hilarious to me. But just watching it now, it seems really, I don't know, hokey and kind of corny to me.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if I've seen Army of Darkness or not seen all of it.
Did you see, did we all see Drag Me to Hell?
Yes.
Yes.
It had a real Evil Dead 2 vibe, I thought, particularly in the seance sequence.
That's as close as we're going to get to a real Evil Dead sequel, if you ask me.
Yeah. I really like that film, Dragging Me to Hell. I thought it was really good fun. I've got the Blu-ray. Yeah. And it's one of those kind of films I show to guests who don't really like horror movies, because it's a fun horror movie. Because I've got a friend, she comes around, she's lovely, but she basically says, I don't want to see any film that women get hurt in. And it's just like, that makes it slightly difficult on the Halloween party thing. But yeah, I think it's just, that was kind of treads the line that was okay. I did make the mistake of watching some giallo. I think it was Eyeball once, where the woman gets stabbed in the breast and has her throat cut, and that probably wasn't the best.
Don't watch I Spit on Your Grave with her or anything like that either.
No, I won't. So okay, well that was we're almost up to the last two. We've got Nathan.
Oh, The Deadly Spawn is just one of my favorites. I think it's an amazing film, especially, knowing that they had such a small budget and they made the most out of it. Obviously it's just like a giant alien giving birth to all these like small little alien creatures, and they start infesting this house and they spread out into the town. There's an awesome scene where the aliens crash these old ladies having a vegetarian luncheon. And that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, actually. And I don't know, like it's got some really likable characters, and the little kid hero in it is like very likable too. And usually I find kids to be very obnoxious in movies, but this kid is not obnoxious at all. He's actually a pretty relatable, likable kid. So excellent movie. I love it.
The Deadly Spawn kind of reminds me a more grisly version of the Monster Squad, because it has that kid who knows about horror films and knows how to destroy monsters and things, but it's obviously more gory and more adult oriented.
That's true.
And wasn't it? It was kind of real labour of love, wasn't it? Because wasn't it made over a few years?
Yeah, you can see actually. You can see the boy aging between scenes.
That's great. I listened to the commentary, and they had so many, problems, trying to make that movie. But I think they overcame them and made a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. I mean, it's a real kind of, like I say, labour of love. And I haven't seen it for a few years, but considering it was kind of made pretty much in a basement, wasn't it? Or it was with no budget. I mean, it looks really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and it's kind of a perfect... Because I think a lot of the 80s films were kind of taking the 50s stuff, wasn't it? And giving a kind of a new spin on it. A lot of the films we've chosen, actually, are taking classic kind of horror, sci-fi, or mostly, horror stuff. So I've got a fat cat.
Night of the Creeps did that kind of tone like that, taking the 50s cliche and kind of modernizing it for 80s audiences.
Yeah, because this is, it's obviously the cliched 50s cliche of the aliens coming to Earth, isn't it? Crash landing. But it's great, somebody with so little money to have such a vision and for it to work out. Because God knows that's not always the case, is it? As we'll find out with the Slumber party. But we won't get ahead of ourselves. Anything else you want to add to that, Nathan?
Just one thing I love about it is it's one of those movies where you think you can predict who will survive and who will die by the movie's end, but some of the deaths and some of the survivors will surprise you.
Yeah, that's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out, because it's a fun movie. I'm just going to finish with my big number one, American Werewolf in London. My number one. It's we talked a lot about horror comedies and what works and what doesn't work, and I think American Werewolf in London is kind of, for me, it's the best example of the horror comedy where it's funny, the comedy works, but it does in no way outweighs the horror, and in fact the horror is pretty horrific and done very well, but also it's a film with a lot of fun about it, and I think the balance, it seems like people have lost the ability to have that kind of balance in horror films now, because a lot of maybe half of the films we talked about so far had that balance, that perfect balance, and I think it's just John Landis just gets it so well in this. David Norton is really likeable, and so is Jenny Agutter. Special effects were incredible, and I remember watching this playing hooky bunking off school, watching it with friends in the early 80s on video, and being amazed by the special effects. And I love the howling, and I think it's kind of, I would say American Werewolf in London pips the howling at the post for me, for sheer entertainment value, and I just love it. I especially love the sequence in the underground in London, and if you watch very carefully in it, just as the man starts getting chased by the werewolf, there's a prom night poster on the wall, on double bill with Love at First Bite, which is a very bizarre double bill, but I have actually seen that poster, so I know it was actually on a double bill with that comedy and Prom Night. But yeah, I love it, and I love the whole, John Landis just gets London and Britain so well. A lot of people don't really get, if a British person goes to America, they might, just use loads of cliches. And the same if an American comes to Britain, they may not understand the culture, but certainly of that whole, that the grubby porno cinema with like See You Next Tuesday, which is obviously See You Next Tuesday is kind of like, spells out
an acronym.
An acronym, that's what I'm looking for. So, and obviously maybe I should, for our more delicate listeners, do a little, but yeah, and I love that. And then that whole thing of he gets the 70s sex film, the British sex film with really bad actors, and gets all that just perfect. I just really liked it. It's a good fun film. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Yeah. Have you seen the
2003 at Horrifying? He was a really nice guy.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Nobody was talking to him. Yeah, he was just sitting over by himself. No one was at his table. I went over and introduced myself. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah. Oh, that's surprising, isn't it? I think sometimes American Werewolf in London kind of gets overlooked a little bit. I mean, although it's still a very, very popular film, it's almost too mainstream in some ways for a lot of horror fans. I don't know if that makes sense. But it does seem to get overlooked in some ways for a very mainstream film. But yeah.
Have you seen the documentary Beware the Moon? It was started by some kid as a university project, and Universal liked it so much that they commissioned him to stretch it out to a 90-minute thing, and they released it theatrically at horror festivals, and then put it onto the Blu-ray of American Werewolf, and it's really good. Oh,
because I've got the DVD version of it. I'll have to get the Blu-ray. Because I got the old, maybe it's 25th or 20th anniversary DVD release. But is it worth upgrading to the Blu-ray? Is it?
I would say so, yeah. Because the documentary is 90 minutes, so it's really, really good.
I'd probably get it quite cheap.
I'd say you could get it quite cheap because the Blu-ray's been out for about 2 years now, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I'll an eye out for that. How about you, Nathan? Do you like it?
Oh, I love American Werewolf in London. I think it's an excellent movie, and I love the use of Blue Moon in the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? And sort of Bad Moon. Is it Bad Moon Rising?
Yeah,
and all those kind of things. And I mean, the other thing is, again, it's a film because they shows how they got it wrong after the 80s with American Werewolf in Paris, and that just complete misstep, wasn't it?
It was a terrible film.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen worse films than that.
I've seen worse films, but it's when CGI was in infancy, wasn't it? And it just looks really fake now. But if we're going full circle and we're talking about, say, The Wolfman, you're talking about as recently seen, and you compare it to American Werewolf in London, and so what American Werewolf in London does right, The Wolfman did completely wrong. Didn't it? Yeah. So that concludes our top 3 80s non-slashers. I mean, it's something you might return to because I'm sure there's lots of others out there. Maybe guilty pleasure films that we've not talked about, but I think it's probably time. We were a little bit worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about The Last Slumber Party because we'll talk about it in a second. But it was very difficult to find information on it. But we're already at almost an hour and 50 minutes, so we are pushing the boundaries here. So without further ado, what we'll do is we will go into a feature presentation. I'll play the trailer for The Last Slumber Party, and afterwards Nathan will lead us in.
Summertime and the living is easy.
3 months of non-stop partying and we start tonight.
Yeah.
They just wanted to have a slumber party and a good time. Sneak in a few guys.
Your ass wasn't so big. It wouldn't be such a problem.
Baby.
Don't flatter yourself.
Oh, it's tight. I'm stuck. Pull.
Get a little high and have lots of fun.
Do you have any drugs?
You scared the hell out of me. What's the matter? Stop it. You don't frighten me.
But tonight turns into a game of survival. As one by one, the kids end up dead. us are dying for a good time.
On their last day of high school, Linda, Tracy, and Chris celebrate by having a slumber party at Linda's house. A few boys drop by, and the beer flows like wine. Just good, clean, fun-loving kids. But the girls have another visitor, one they don't know about yet. Hiding in the house is a homicidal maniac who has just escaped from a mental hospital, armed with a scalpel. The nut slashes a little here, a little there, as he sneaks from room to room. One by one, the guests start disappearing. What evil lurks there? What nightmare world have they entered? The plot is twisted inside out, leaving you stunned and clinging to your chair as you witness shock after horrifying shock. The ending will leave you breathless. And now, the blood flows like wine. The last slumber party I saw, probably when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I was in the video store, and I'd seen Slumber Party Massacre Part 1 and 2, and I loved them. I mean, they were two of my favorite movies of all time. And I saw The Last Slumber Party, and I mistakenly thought that it was Part 3 in the Slumber Party Massacre series. And, I mean, the box was similar. You had, like, 3 girls, you know, in, like, nightgowns with a killer on the front. And I took it home to watch it, and... You know, for a long time, I thought that it was Part 3. Now, I've always loved this Last Slumber Party, but I do admit, like, it's not a good movie. It's just, to me, it's so bad it's good. I mean, you have these 3 girls having a slumber party while their parents are home, or the mom's home, which is a little weird to me. Bad acting. And when I was watching it the other night, one character during the middle of the movie says... This is not fucking funny, and I'm not taking any more of this shit. And I pictured that being Justin, Erik, and Joseph's responses while watching this. I don't know if I was wrong, but, you know, I kind of just pictured that probably sums up one of the feelings they had during this movie. And Justin's review always makes me laugh, too, because I love the fact that he points out that the final girl actually snubs a victim. You know, a victim comes up behind her with their throat slit, and she just runs off and just leaves them there, you know. Like, she don't care. Like, whatever. See ya.
Not just her, but it was, she snubs quite a few of them, doesn't she?
She does.
Her best friend goes, get help. And she goes, yeah, whatever. And then sort of
I love the fact that her dead friend comes back to life and says, get help. And she still rummages around in that house and wanders around. It makes no sense to me. And I also love the part where she actually opens the front door to run out and then instead chooses to run back into the house when she knows the killer's in there. Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of brains. I got a lot more to say about it, but I think I'd like to hear from Erik.
Okay. I watched this for the first time just after we did the last podcast, and it held my attention for about 10 minutes, and then I started doing my usual, you know, going on Facebook and looking at what offers Amazon had this week. So I gave it another whirl during the week. I was kind of with it maybe for about half an hour. It was making me chuckle, you know, how sort of stupid it was. But I found it didn't really, my attention didn't hold for the full 70 minutes, I have to say. I found it kind of a struggle to get through in one sitting, so I had to rewatch it. So in all, I've seen it 3 times since the last podcast, which I think is 3 times more than a doctor would recommend.
Especially what I did.
Sorry?
Especially one with a scalpel.
Yeah. I mean, I do love the fact that the killer goes around with this wide-eyed lunacy look that's really, really over the top. I mean, the actor, all he has to do, he doesn't have to speak, and half his face is covered by a sort of surgical mask, and yet he still is really, really inept in the role.
That's the director, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's actually played by the director of the film.
Is it?
Yeah, Steven Tyler. Yeah.
Oh, from Aerosmith, yeah.
No.
No. Not him. I mean, and it has like loads of what the fuck moments in it. I mean, a spoiler alert, there's the introduction of a second killer who appears and then is killed by the first killer and it's never explained. Like it's explained, we know who he is because he's introduced earlier in the film, but it's never explained why he's killing people, and it just seems out of the blue. It seems like it's thrown in there to bump up running time or something. I love all the jump scares as well that fail to make anyone jump. There seems to be every 2 minutes somebody looks at an open window and somebody pops up. Either it's the killer or it's one of the boys wearing a scary mask. And they're sort of the person jumps up and then there's sort of a gap of about a second and then the girls scream. It's really, really, really media students in their first year, out set off with a video camera to do a little project for their teacher. That's what it feels like. The score, I mean, there's a dream sequence in the middle of the film of, is it Chris is her name, where she's wandering around the house to this music that goes, meow, meow. It sounds like a cat, not flushing a toilet, but having somebody stepping on its tail, or it's looking for some whiskas or something. I admire your enthusiasm for the film, Nathan. I can kind of see where you're coming from, because there is a bit of fun to be had, but I do find the film as a whole to be a bit dull. If it had been 30 minutes long, it probably would have been fun. But at 70 minutes, I found, and then it has about 6 endings as well, which didn't appeal to me. I just wanted it to be over and done with. Also, that girl as well, she's ridiculously stupid. And I know that, can I do another spoiler?
Sure.
I know that in the end it's all a dream, which should really explain her stupidity, but, I don't know.
I think she'd really be that stupid, even if it wasn't a dream.
You think? Yeah. And her voice, at times her voice reminds me of Tracy from Body Count. Did anyone get that vibe off her?
I think she was trying to impersonate the girls from Halloween, wasn't she? All
three of them were. Yeah. Her tone of voice is the same, whatever she's saying. She's like, nah, 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 nah.
Yes.
Oh, what about you, Justin?
Me? Well, you know my feelings on The Last Slumber Party, but you may be surprised to hear I didn't love it. But I watched in a different frame of mind this time. I thought, it's fucking awful. Sorry, I'm not near the buzzer, so I'm not going to buzz it. You have to excuse that. But I'm going to watch it as it's a bad movie. I'm going to say, okay, I know it's a bad movie. I'm going to revel in the badness. And for the first half of it, 2/3 of it, I would say that I was enjoying it on that level. And the irony is the kind of ending with the with Chris, which is the kind of the main girl who turns out to be the final girl. It's so stupid. I mean, she's so stupid, and she does that slasher movie snub to both the mother and her best friend. The very fact that she's not leaving the house and she keeps on rummaging around in a drawer, even though there's patently a massive butcher knife right next to her. The director said, rummage around the drawer for 2 minutes while we film you rummaging, even though the knife's right there. That bit, it's so flat. She's got so little charisma. I mean, she is literally a plank walking. She drains. She is like a sponge, a psychic sponge. She just takes everything out, anything that good or any kind of thing. And of course, the very fact that the killer is so, I don't know, he's just like, not lethargic, but he just sort of wanders around. He's like the cleaning lady in the background, sort of doddering across the shop, and she's walking. And the fact is, she doesn't leave the house. Is so stupid. It should be the best bit of the movie, but I kind of found the earlier stuff was kind of more fun. I mean, a couple of things I have to say is that it sets the tone at the beginning, because it starts with like the classic thing of the kids. Well, there's the blonde girl, isn't there? Who was that blonde girl when the killer pops up at the window? She screams.
I don't know.
And then because I
went back and rewatched it and I thought, is that the blonde girl that appears later? And I was like, all confused.
Because Tracy's the blonde girl, isn't it? And then I think they mention Sarah, and then they don't mention it until like later on in the movie. And I was thinking, well, who was that girl? Because she looks very much like the bottle blonde Tracy. So that didn't make any sense. But I kind of, the fact at the beginning, there's the classroom scene where you've got the teacher with a porn moustache saying to them, oh, how wonderful, they've been as a class. And you've got this rock music playing over the top so loudly that you have to really strain to hear what the cast are saying. Not that you particularly want to hear what they're saying, but you have to really strain. And you just think that kind of set the tone of like the thing. But actually watching the film slightly from a kind of a different angle this time, it's competently made in some ways. There's some tracking shots and things going on in there. It's not completely amateur hour, I didn't think. But a couple of the other things that was obviously it's ripping off Halloween in a major way, probably quite knowingly, I imagine, because you've got the three girls and they swap around the characters a bit. You've got the virginal girl where they have the slumber party. I think it was what was her name? I can't remember which one she was.
Linda.
But Linda, that's right. Yeah. And then you have Chris and Tracy taking on the Annie and the PJ Soul's character in Halloween. I mean, even the shots of them walking, across the schoolyard, that's completely ripped off. But what John Carpenter didn't do was make them homophobic assholes. And, the film's littered with, you fag, you queer, this kind of...
He's such a homo.
Yeah, the girls, he's such a homo, he took the duvet, and like these kind of things. And it's so bizarre, because the boys aren't homophobic, but the teenage girls are the really homophobic ones. And the most homophobic one is the final girl. So it's a really bizarre kind of way of doing all of that. And it kind of...
You can have a drinking game. Every time she says the word queer, you'd probably be on the floor passed out.
Well, she even calls her girlfriends that. Oh, yeah. Linda, don't be so queer.
And they're the ones that get into bed together, don't they, the girls? So it's got a really bizarre kind of... Anyway, but it's... a couple of things I'll come back to, but... my favourite character probably was actually the father character, Dr. Sicker. And he's such a bad actor, wasn't he?
Incredibly bad.
That's a doctor I want.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a complete what the fuck moment where he has a big long conversation about buying orange juice.
Yeah,
that seems to go on for about 20 minutes.
And what's funny is he says, Mrs. Sickler asked me to bring her some orange juice on my way home, and he was on his way to the hospital. So he's going to buy the orange juice and I guess let it sit in the car while he goes to work and then come back home. But then I like he says something about these emergencies are a pain, but what can you do? It's obviously like the director just rolled the camera and said just talk.
Exactly, and he comes home, doesn't he, at the end, right at the end of the movie, without the orange juice. Opens up the fridge and then pours himself a glass of orange juice. I know it's a dream, but surely there's got to be some continuity. They even put the ladder outside, so they have that continuity that they kind of.
Well, that's all still in the realms of the dream. So the orange juice scenario was all a dream.
Yeah, that's true. But I've got more to say. But I'll take it back to you, Nathan.
Oh, well, one thing I wanted to say before we get to Joseph is when you mentioned the girl, the blonde at the beginning. Who he attacked, or I don't know if attacked is the right word, he scared her. But she looks out of a second-story window, and then all of a sudden he's in her bedroom, and she's screaming. I mean, did he, climb in through the window, with a ladder, and how did she not hear that? I realize that these are all questions that can't be answered, but that was just something else I thought was really funny.
Yeah, and then she's outside. Then she's outside talking to the police, and he just waves a bloody scalpel at her, doesn't he? And goes bug-eyed and waves, and she screams. So he's quite a crap killer, really, isn't he?
Yeah, because she goes, he ran away when I screamed. Well, I mean, when he goes to the slumber party, he doesn't run away when any of them scream. No. I don't know why he spared her.
No.
But anyway, I digress. Joseph, let's hear your negative opinions.
Well, I promised you that I would be fair and set aside my feelings of watching this in the past, so to allow it a fresh perspective. But that being said, I've seen it twice recently. Once for the film's sake, and then again for obtaining all the audio clips for the show today. But actually, the one thing I really like about The Last Slumber Party, and I'm going to be honest, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, is I like the idea that this nutcase escapes from a mental asylum to basically, go kill his doctor. And at the same time, the doctor's obnoxious offspring or annoying friends are, they pretty much pissed off this guy at school, so there's a second killer. They don't have anything to do with one another. They're totally independent of one another, and they just kind of have a run-in. I thought, that's a really good idea. They should take an idea like that and apply it to, a better film. But I'm sorry to say I really got no other joy out of watching The Last Slumber Party. It's not really oddball enough in a nail gun massacre sort of way to be, considered quality entertainment. And the film's actual, quality, it shifts so violently from poor to, utterly fucking incompetent. I started actually getting headaches trying to stay focused. It really reminds me of Axum and how the quality and tone is so inconsistent. The characters are beyond annoying. There's absolutely no suspense. It's drab, lifeless, flat, and it's a real chore to sit through it. At 70 minutes, it's really hard. It's an endurance test. Like Erik said, if it were like 25, 30 minutes, it would be kind of mildly amusing, but there's really no way in hell I could recommend this even to the most diehard masochist out there. Sorry.
Well, that's one for the DVD case, isn't it?
I still love you, Last Slumber Party. You'll always have a number one fan in me. And my buddy Jeffrey Lee on Facebook, he's probably a bigger fan than I am.
And Meep loves it as well, doesn't he?
Huh?
Meep loves it.
Oh, I didn't know Meep loves it. That's awesome, Meep. I love you even more now.
Maybe I'm sorry, Meep, if I've besmirched your
tarnished his good name. Yeah.
What did you guys think?
Amanda by Night likes the film too.
I'll have to ask Amanda. I don't know if she does or not. What did you guys think of the ending when Linda goes outside and the killer sneaks in? I mean, she turns around and is walking back to the house, and you can clearly see the killer sneaking in through the back door.
I know.
I've always thought, how did you not see that?
Well, at that stage, I'd given up caring.
Also, how did the killer get back to the hospital, kill the doctor in the lift, then bring him back, put him in the pool?
It was a dream.
No, but that was after the dream.
And what did you think of the doctor's
that was
throat
before the
slitting?
dream.
Oh, was that before the dream? Okay.
That was before the dream ended, yeah. Because I was like that, going, that's so stupid. But then she wakes up and it's like, okay, fair enough.
The one thing I always want to know is at the very beginning when they're in class and they're basically waiting for their summer vacation to start, the boys are like, "Hey, Science, man, come over here." And they're like, "Watch this." And then, Science goes over to the table and they're like, "Hey, how you doing, Science?" And he's like, "Well, I looked at my new watch. It's synced with the school." And they're all getting along chummy, and they're all happy that he's got this watch that'll tell them when they're getting out of school. So why later in the film are they just so mean to him? I mean, I'm sure that's what sets him off. But why are they so like? I don't get it. They're really nice to him at the beginning. He says, "Hey, Science, come over here. We're gonna make fun of him." But then they don't. But then later they actually do. It's really inconsistent.
Well, they were using him for his watch.
Yeah, but they seemed genuinely happy that he had this thing. They weren't like saying, "Oh, thanks for telling us, get out of here." They actually, seemed to like him sitting at their table.
Because if they'd done it like a Slaughter High kind of way, where they were really mean to him, the whole class was mean to him, you could understand it, couldn't you? But like you say, they weren't.
I can't tell if they liked him or if they just, if they just disliked him. So I wasn't sure why he was killing. I mean, I like the idea, of being two killers that don't know about one another, but I don't know, it just didn't make much sense.
That's the film's one good thing. Apart from the only other thing is the kind of mixing up the final girls, because you think Linda's going to be the final girl, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
They picked the most annoying person to be the final girl in the world.
And she's got such a bitchy face.
No, she's not as annoying as the new Laurie in the Halloween.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you this. The Last Slumber Party is better than both Rob Zombie movies.
Yes, 100% agree.
Yes.
I'll take it. What did y'all think of the throat slitting in the elevator? I love the fact that you don't see any blood until the scalpel's almost all the way across this guy's throat.
Yeah, it's like they forgot to squeeze the pump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sum. I was going to have to come on to special effects, because the special effects run to a joke shop scalpel, don't they? Which they pump blood with the hands, and the blood trickles down the neck.
I'll tell you another scene I liked. Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done. Are you done?
Well, no. Carry on. No, I am. But I was just pausing.
Oh, I heard like a lull. I don't know. Maybe it was my phone or something. But
no, don't worry.
Are you done?
Don't worry. I'm done. You go.
I was just gonna say another scene I liked. I couldn't really understand what was going on. Is when the girl catches the bus and the guy's like asleep on the park bench.
Oh yeah, I thought he was dead.
Yeah,
well,
he's like
he was
asleep just so he wouldn't see the killer sneak up on him or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, my assumption was when she got to the bus. Yeah.
And she just stands there and lets him do away with it.
When she goes,
and then the guy wakes up and he's like, "Oh, is the bus here? What's going on? What time is it?" And then he gets his throat slit.
Well, that's the thing is, she turns around, she sees the mental patient that she knows should be in the bed, with a scalpel about to kill her, and she goes, "What are you doing?" You know, like it's kind of like as if she's going, as if he's kind of bumped into her or kind of, you know, sort of knocked her shopping over, rather than, you know. So it's, but there you go.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice is from. Sorry, go on.
What was the whole? I mean, I think I missed something. But why were there 2 telephones in the bathroom at one stage?
Yeah.
And what had that got to do with anything?
I like the way
what happens
whenever
if Chris
rings, she goes shit and then grabs the other one.
Do they have different lines in this house? They must have like different telephone numbers.
Well, they did, because they said earlier. They said one of the girls said, you know, why was your mother so pissy? And she said you phoned her line.
Oh.
So, but not that really.
Oh, la-di-da. 2 telephone lines.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because I always wondered that scene serves no purpose because she picks it up and she makes like smart-ass comments and then finds out it's the dad. Then she hangs up on him and then goes into the bedroom and goes, "Oh, it was your dad. I feel like an asshole. I thought it was Tommy." I mean, but what was the point of all that?
No, I think it was just padding.
I know. And also, I love the bit where she's just discovered all her friends dead, all the boys dead, and then she goes into the bathroom, the shower's on, she pulls back the shower curtain, and she spends about 5 minutes looking at the shower and the water going down into the bathtub, back up and down, as if she's going, "Oh, it's really wasting water, this place. Oh, I don't," you know, she's worried about the wasting the water rather than the fact that all her friends are dead.
Yeah. So what I want to know is...
Go ahead.
Sorry, what I want to know is the film is obviously set in 1987. Was that when it was made?
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Why does Linda have on her bedroom wall posters of Sesame Street, a Bee Gees 1976 poster? She has the Beatles, Xanadu, and Tom Selleck.
Well, that's the question.
The world had moved on since then.
The question is, why do you still have that stuff?
Way earlier.
Sorry?
Why do you still have that stuff, Eric? Why do you still have
why?
it?
Shut up.
You have a Xanadu and Toya poster.
And nobody has those anymore.
I do, and my friend Dave does, okay?
Yeah. See, one of the things I was going to say, for my money, you know, it's completely filled with bad actors, but for my money, the father, the doctor, he's the worst actor in the whole film.
He's awful.
I love when they're at the convenience store, the 3 guys, and they're getting beer, and he walks over and he's like, "How's it going?" They're like, "Oh, we're just, getting some, ice cream or something before we go back to study." He's like, "It's always good to see you kids take your education seriously." Yeah. And he stands there and he stares off into space for like 30 seconds before he says his next line. It's just completely incompetent.
Oh, yeah.
I like the scene where he's having a flashback, I guess, where the mental patient attacked him in the hospital. And the mental patient picks him up and kind of pulls him down slowly to him. And he's like, It sounds like he's trying to make out with him or something.
Yeah.
It does completely, yeah.
And he's not even strangling him, because when the other doctors come in to subdue the mental patient, they're restraining him, and he just kind of like lifts his head up and he just kind of like scratches his hair like, "Oh, that was nothing," and he just walks out of the room.
Yeah. Well, I did
like
have
nothing
theory.
happened.
Yeah, I had a theory why there was things like Xanadu and stuff on the walls. I wondered if the director wanted to do a homage to early 80s slasher movies, even though it was only 87, because that might explain why Linda's bedroom was in such a time warp. Perhaps.
Was what?
I was going to say, actually, that would be a homage.
Homage.
Yeah, keeping with the tone of the film.
Linda's the only one who doesn't go any homophobic comments. It's Chris and Tracy who are kind of like, Westboro Baptist Church of slasher movie victims.
Can I ask as well, the scene where Chris switches on the telly and it cuts to a sort of brief 20-second clip of some film of some cops knocking down a door and a monster appears.
What is that?
Is that from an existing film, or...
I don't know.
And the way it's edited into the film, it's really jarring. I thought it was another scene within the film rather than a...
It looked better than the film.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, I think... I mean, just briefly coming on, because it's basically we haven't got any interviews for this, have we? And I know, Nathan, you tried, didn't you? But nobody wanted to talk about it, did they?
No.
I only found one person, and he never wrote me back, so I guess he did not want to discuss it.
Yeah, so it's a bit of an enigma, this film, isn't it? Yeah. I was talking to the guys earlier, and they're saying that this is the first time ever that I've only... My notes all on one page, because it really is. I cannot find anything about this film at all. the only reason I was saying that, it was that saying earlier about maybe that scene was from another film, is it seems in 1987 a lot of these films were being made for video, because The Last Slumber Party didn't come out on the big screen, unsurprisingly. But I don't know which version you saw, but I've got the original VHS on United Home Video from the States, and it's dated 1988. B&S Productions, which could be bullshit, I guess. Productions.
That's what I always thought.
Yeah, but what I thought was not interesting, but it was quite it looked like it was filmed on film, because there's lots of scratches and pops.
I read somewhere it was filmed on 16mm.
It looked like 16mm.
It was blown up to 32, I believe. That's why it looked so crappy almost.
Yeah. But it's just interesting. I wonder why they did that on. Because when was the first? I mean, because it was basically just going on to some of the trivia. I mean, literally, I've got hardly anything. When I looked for this on the Variety website, it said that basically it says it was released around the same time as classics, and I use that word advisedly, Blood Cult, The Ripper, Revenge, Terror at Tenkiller, and Forever Evil, were all released around about the same time. So I don't know if it was the same video company that was putting them out, but it would make sense if they were pumping these videos out, then maybe that scene was from one of these other films. Obviously not from... I've seen Blood Cult, The Ripper, Revenge, and Terror at Tenkiller. I wish I hadn't, but I have. But I've not seen Forever Evil, but that kind of sounds like it might fit that particular scene. I don't know.
Of course, it was...
I want to know... Who was the genius who decided to put this on a DVD with Terror at Tenkiller?
I was just going to say, yeah. I mean, the double bill from hell.
Oh no! I love Terror at Tenkiller, and
of course I know.
I bet that's going to be next, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Everything. I'm going to pick it.
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake! Don't get any interviews, because I really slagged off everyone involved in that on Hysteria Lives. So.
Oh God! Okay, I won't do it then.
You won't find anyone who wants to talk about that movie, surely.
Yeah.
What did y'all think of the wallpaper?
Oh, that was amazing.
In Last Slumber Party.
Yeah,
I thought it looked like one of those, those magic 3D images that were all the rage about 5 years ago. It looked like one of those. Where you put your eyes.
I thought it looked like one of those drawers you put your the contact paper in, and you put your knives and silverware on top of it. I thought it looked like a contact paper drawer or something like that.
Well, I thought it was the best actor in the movie, and I was really upset that it didn't go on to do something else. Because
were you enthralled every time the wallpaper came on the screen?
It was
that wallpaper was recycled as someone's dress in Sorority House Massacre.
Yes, I'm sure. Gosh, yes. Well, it's has we got any other tidbits on this? Because I got very little.
The only thing I found was, and Erik probably found the same thing, but the band First Strike that does that really, really awful song, the metal song, that plays out throughout the whole thing. Basically, that was their only album they ever released, called Just a Nightmare, and apparently they were somewhat successful, and they've opened for Metallica, Dawkins, Stryper, and King's X, of all people. Wow. That's the only thing I could find on the film.
I'm not that surprised they didn't have a very long-lasting career. Because there was three people. It was them, Firestrike, and there was two other people who did music, and one of them must have done that soundtrack. The one you were talking about,
Meow soundtrack,
with
yeah.
like the
That was the sound that we used to open the show.
Headbutting a synthesizer. One little tidbit I've just come up
the organ
is when it came out. Variety says it was. Can you guess how much it would cost to buy The Last Slumber Party if you bought
$99?
Not quite. No, it
to buy a sell-through copy of it, or to buy the rights to distribute it.
Well, it's probably both, actually, I imagine. But $79.95. You could buy a copy, and so that's 1987. So in today's money, you're probably looking at maybe $130 or $150 or something for a VH copy of The Last Slumber Party, which I have. I'm holding in my hand a hard clamshell.
Did you pay $80 for it?
No, I think I probably 80 cents maybe back when I bought it. But,
I wouldn't pay 8 cents for that.
No, well, being a completist, I think. I mean, the good thing is the video cover is great. It's much better than the film because it's got like these these girls with massive hair in really cheesy lingerie, and somebody, you know, ripping off obviously the Slum Party Massacre cover, and one girl having her throat cut in a much more convincing special effect than anything seen in the movie. But there you go. What about you, Nathan? Did you dig up anything?
I know that it was filmed in Louisiana.
Okay.
And I know, and this is just a little tidbit I picked up from Tony Brown, who runs the old Hochstetter Place website.
Yeah.
He had posted on the Last Slumber Party Facebook group, which, guys, look it up and join. There's only got 46 people. We need more. He posted that he actually had spoken to an actor once, and the actor had said that they had some legal issues because apparently the Last Slumber Party claimed that they started filming even before the Slumber Party Massacre came out, and apparently there was some legal trouble with them trying to sue the Slumber Party Massacre or something for ripping off their idea, even though it didn't come out. I mean, it didn't get finished till '87. Obviously, nothing ever came of that, or we'd know about it. Probably was just
that
talk.
could explain why the Chris had dark circles under her eyes, because they were filming for like 10 years.
She did have really dark circles under her eyes.
I thought she, you know, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say that she looks like she was doing some heavy drugs or something, which, you know, I can see that.
She would have to be, or crying, you know, so she couldn't get out of the contract.
Who was y'all's favorite character in the movie?
The wallpaper.
Oh, it's so many to choose from.
The wallpaper.
Yeah. It would probably be Chris, I suppose, because she has no lines.
Maybe the dime store scalpel. That was a good character.
Yeah.
Mine's the doctor. I don't know why, but he just cracks me up, and every scene he's in, it's funny.
I love it going back to what you were saying earlier about the fact they're having this slumber party and the mother is in the house and they don't really think anything of bringing the boys back and running around slamming doors and going nah, 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 and like, you know, homo and like this. And the mother just comes and goes, turn it down, girls, you know, I'm trying to get some sleep, it's time to turn in. And you know, it's just, I mean, do when girls have slumber parties, presumably they're about 12, 13, I imagine, when most girls have slumber parties. They probably do have their parents staying there. But when they're kind of 35-year-old slappers pretending to be 17-year-old girls, then they probably wouldn't want their parents there, would they? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
I also love, speaking of the mother, where she appears at the bathroom door with her throat slit and she looks like she really, really doesn't care. She's like, oh, my throat is slit, whatever. You know,
she reaches out to grab Chris, like, help me, and then Chris just runs off.
Yeah, but then she doesn't seem to care. It's like, oh, she's run off, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
It's almost like she's come into the bathroom and Chris has done a fart and she's looking at her like, like that, while she's clutching her neck. And then Chris looks at her like she's done a fart and then goes, get out of my way, bitch. And then goes and like investigates the knife drawer again to look for a spatula or something to
yeah.
I felt bad for the cat, you know, the scene where the cat's in the closet and then they have the dead body fall out and that cat bolts. It's the smartest one in the movie because it took off.
Linda flings the cat across the room at one stage where she's trying to hide the alcohol. She stands up really suddenly and throws the cat away to try and hide the alcohol. Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask one thing? Just one last thing. The really weird vehicle that the boys drive. What on earth is it? It looks like some kind of military thing.
It's like a Jeep.
Yeah, it's a Jeep, but with no sort of side or doors or anything on it.
Yeah. They do most. Yeah, it's kind of like a cross between a Jeep and a Humvee almost.
Yeah. It's not something you see in many slasher films.
Not really. It looks like one of those kind of duck things that you see going around towns, you know, goes like across water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and Eric, what about the fashion? Because I need your fashion.
Well, I do like that number 10 T-shirt that she wears all the way through it. I'm assuming she's wearing something underneath as well. Yeah.
So you did like the T-shirt at least?
I did like the T-shirt, yeah.
So Nathan, you do know.
The hair generally wasn't big enough for my liking. It could have been, like, considering it's 1987, there should have been bigger perms.
And if it was filmed in '83, then it should have been really, really big.
Yeah.
The hair should have been, like, massive. Yeah. So Nathan, now you do know.
I'm watching Knots Landing reruns at the moment, not as we speak, but every weekend they're on, and it really sets a high bar for big hair. So Last Slumber Party was a bit of a disappointment in that arena.
What season are you in?
We are 1984. I'm not sure what season it is. It's the 84-85 season.
Oh.
So Nathan, you do know now, after listening to the intro, which sound clip I was talking about.
The bored one?
Yeah. I'm bored out of my skull.
Yeah.
I
think that was Tracy.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have to admit, that was one boring slumber party. I mean, they didn't do anything. They just
And it went
They
on
just
for
kinda-
hours, didn't it? Because it was 3 o'clock in the morning when the phone was going.
All they did was, make homophobic remarks the whole time.
Yeah.
What
and
made
wait
me
on the
laugh-
boys to get there.
Yeah. Well, the boys were hanging around. Like that one guy that comes in, it must have been 5 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it? He was hanging around outside for like 7 hours. Which is
Yeah, that's true.
You know, how many times... How many times did they do that mask gag where he climbed up and he wore some kind of Halloween mask? They did it like 10 times.
I know.
And they kept saying, "Oh, you little queers! Why don't do that?"
My favorite was the one Erik mentioned where they climb up the ladder and they have the mask on and they don't even scream. They just kind of go, ugh. And then the girls look at it and then it's sort of like a minute later they go,
Delayed reaction. It was a delayed reaction.
And then they kill me because, and no offense to this actor, but that's what you get for not talking about the movie. Is the main guy, the blonde? They keep going on and on about how good looking he is.
He looks like the kid from. He looks like an uglier version of the kid who was in Lampoon's European Vacation. He has the big jagged teeth and the ginger hair and.
He looks like he swallowed a space hopper, doesn't he, as well? He's, I like the, Nathan, when you read, because you were reading out, your entrance was the back of the video box, wasn't it? Because I got that here.
Yeah, did y'all like that?
Yeah,
I gave it a lot of feeling.
I love the thing when it says, and the beer flows like wine. I mean, what's the difference?
Beer flows like wine.
Yeah, I mean, it's... What is the difference between the two? I don't really understand why they would make that distinction.
They're both liquid. They're both alcohol.
The beer just flow like beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The wine probably has a higher viscosity, maybe.
I don't know. I like the fact when
flows like
the
apple teenies.
Yeah, when the one kid he kind of opens that beer and spills about 2 drops on his top. And then takes off his top and tries to wring it out at the window.
Yes.
Even though he spilt like barely anything on him at all. That's very ridiculous. But anyway, we will probably better move on if that's okay, because we're coming up to 2.5 hour mark. So is there anything else you want to say about Last Slumber Party before we put it to bed?
Just to say, I enjoyed the cheesiness for the first half, but then got bored with it in the second half.
Yeah, okay.
But didn't hate the film.
Slag it completely.
I enjoy talking about it more than I do watching it.
I actually had a lot of fun discussing it. I mean, because there's so much to point out regarding it. Can you imagine what it's going to be like when we do a Pieces episode?
Wow. I imagine it's quite good. If all 4 of us were sitting together watching it, it would be kind of fun maybe to watch. But watching it on your own probably isn't that much fun.
No,
I made Wes watch it with me.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
He paid me back.
He made you watch
last night.
Well, didn't he make you watch Twilight? Didn't he?
Yes, and that was enough. That was payback enough.
That is payback enough. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's the Last
when I
Slumber
read the
Party.
back of the box, I meant to say that.
Sorry.
Did y'all really like when I read the back of the box because I tried to act it?
You did. You made it sound really, really exciting, but I knew it wasn't.
Yeah, it made it sound like a suspense classic, but
yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you, Nathan, for that, and hopefully Terror at 10 Killer will be your choice in a couple of years. So I think if we call it quits on the Last Slumber Party, and we're going to do some feedback now. Why don't you write in and tell us what you thought of the Last Slumber Party? Because I know a lot of you are listening along, or watching along even, the film, and then listening to the podcast afterwards. And we do apologise about the Last Slumber Party. For some of the people keep on saying, can it get any worse? And yes, it can. So, and we apologise for that. But hopefully you can watch the Last Slumber Party in the spirit that it's intended. And certainly I got more out of it this time when I watched it, thinking it's not going to be a very good film, and it wasn't, but I did enjoy bits of it. So, but have we got the email address and telephone number to phone in? Joseph, have you got those to hand?
Yes, if you want to call in, our number is 858-233-9281. Our email address is the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. Search for The Hysteria Continues, and we're on Twitter. That's twitter.com/THC_podcast.
Great. Okay. Well, we've got some feedback for this episode. We've got one telephone message. Shall I play that first?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Here's our voicemail.
Hey guys, Johnny Krug here from the Kruger Nation Horror Podcast, Cadaver Lab, and Cinema Corpse Podcast. Just wanted to say I've been loving the show, and I'm really glad you did the Island of Blood episode, because on the Cinema Corpse Podcast back in the day we did a challenge where we watched all the movies that were put out, all the horror movies put out in our birth year, and mine was 1982. And for some reason, I could not locate Island of Blood. But thanks to your show, I know that it's now on YouTube. So I will check that out. And just keep up the great work, man. Loving the show. You guys are awesome. Best chemistry in podcasting, in horror podcasting. Loving the show. So keep it up. Peace.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Nice.
I'm sure we will all keep it up, won't we?
Mitchell, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Okay.
I love the slide whistle. It's so great.
Then that's from Carry On Matron, I think, if you're wondering. Yeah, well, thank you,
Takes me
Johnny.
back to all horror days when that would be posted every other sentence.
Yes, absolutely. So, but yeah, please do phone in. You know, we're not like other podcasts. We're not going to make fun of you during the phone message. Well, we probably won't. But please do phone in, because we'd just like to hear from you. If you've got any comments on the show, or anything we've covered, or you want us to cover, or just send something in and we'll play it and you can hear yourself, and that'd be great. But we do have some email feedback, don't we? I haven't got any myself, but Joseph, have you got any to hand?
Yeah, I got a couple. This is from our good friend Tosca Topsocks.
Yay.
He says, Hey, hello guys. I hope that you are well. Just about halfway through the Whodunit Island of Blood Scared Alive podcast. Another totally bodacious episode, dudes. Just a thought on a subject that very often gets mentioned but not elaborated upon too much, and that is the UK's video nasty debacle and the dreaded Bright Bill. I'm not sure that many of your overseas listeners, particularly our American brethren, are aware as to what a massive impact the video nasties had on our viewing pleasure. Being of a similar age to Justin, I am sure that he will remember the infamous period well. I clearly remember hiding bootleg dupes of I Spit on Your Grave and Driller Killer under my bed as a teenager. Thankfully, things have changed dramatically, and the UK now enjoys very minimal censorship, and over the last few years we've been able to enjoy more of those salacious titbits, it's supposed to be tidbits, but you spell it tit anyway, that were previously only available as bootleg nth generation copies. It is true to say that whilst only a handful of slashers were affected, the nasties and the Bright Bill did make getting hold of many of our favorite films difficult or nigh on impossible. Even when some of the less mainstream titles like Rosemary's Killer and Bay of Blood were released, they were often of poor quality and in a highly cut form. It is laughable to think that this whole situation actually occurred in a modern, supposedly democratic country such as ours, but frighteningly it did. As I said, the UK now enjoys relatively minimal censorship and interference, and indeed, I am given to understand that some movies are actually more censored in the US than they are in the UK, especially in the big commercialized multiplexes. The recent hoo-ha in relation to Hatchet 2 in the US is a good case in point of the MPAA flexing their muscles. Anywho, just to say that a future special segment on video nasties and censorship in relation to our beloved slasher films will be of great interest to me and hopefully to your listeners. Take care, guys. P.S. Hope you're going to have a Christmas special. Ho, ho, ho. Tosca Topsocks.
All right. Well, no, thank you, Tosca. And I'll just say I haven't told the others yet, but we may have a lead on a Christmas special, so I'll keep in suspense, but I'll tell them what that might be after the show.
Is it an interview with Shakin' Stevens?
No, it's an interview with Toya. Got cheap, 50p an hour. But yeah, it would be great to do a censorship sort of debate or a special or something. It'd be interesting to do like maybe pick a film that was highly censored that we could cover, and then we could do like a censorship, a chat about that. I think that would be an interesting thing for an upcoming podcast. So we'll keep that in mind. So thank you, Tosca.
Yes, thank you, Tosca.
Thank you, Tosca.
As always.
As always, yes. Okay, and of Erik, because I know you've got another one, Joseph. Nathan, have you got anything?
No, I don't have anything, but I did have someone add me on Facebook and said that he really liked the podcast. So thank you, Reese Dusty Donald.
Okay, cool. Yes, I know Reese. So yeah, well, thanks for listening, Reese. Good stuff. How about you, Erik? You've got
yes, I've got one here. I have foolishly I've copied and pasted it into a Word document, and I've neglected to put in who's it from. Do you know who it's from, Joseph?
Let me check real quick.
Okay, well, I'll start reading it out, and maybe you can interject at the end with the name of the person. It's, hey guys, I just recently discovered your podcast, and so far I'm really loving it. I have been on the Hysteria Lives website numerous times before, and it's great that there's a podcast that matches the joy of scrolling through the multitude of reviews for slashers I didn't think anyone besides myself knew about. I've gone through a few of your episodes, and I'm still trying to catch up. I love how you give so many of the films I love the respect they deserve, like Superstition, Body Count, The Slayer, April Fool's Day, Chopping Mall, etc. I must share my personal 3 favourite songs in slashers, besides the more famous ones like Halloween. Number 3, the synth score from Blood Rage. I feel the little synthesizer score during the chase scene fit perfectly, since the movie itself was very fun. Number 2, the trumpet score from Superstition. The trumpets playing during the climax in the house was really catchy, and once it gets in my head, it takes a lot to get it out. I think that calls for Mr. Williams.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Sorry, let me just get it out. Here we go.
Matron, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Okay. His number 1 favourite score song in a slasher is Woman on Fire, which is a song from Killer Workout, aka Aerobicide. The really catchy pop... the really catchy pop song playing during the end credits. I feel this song is a perfect fit for the film, and I loved how the credits were intercut with women doing aerobics. Just the combination was so cheesy, I absolutely loved it. Anyway, I would also like to recommend some movies for future episodes, like Iced. I know most people hate that one, but I really like it. Blood Rage, Killer Workout, Psycho Cop 1 and 2, The Mutilator, and Rocktober Blood. Also, could you send me a link for Saturday Night Cleaver? Thanks, and I'll be sure to tune in to The Hysteria Continues every time a new episode is released. Keep up the good work, and try not to change a thing, because you can't improve on perfection.
Oh, how lovely. Thank you,
That was
Mum.
from James. Apparently, he doesn't leave a last name, but his name is James. So thank you, James.
Well, thank you very much, James. And I'm sorry I forgot to paste your name into my little Word document I have here. But Iced we did mention on the very first podcast in our What the Fuck moments. I have never seen Psycho Cop 1 or 2. What are they like? Are they any good?
Oh, Psycho Cop 2 is incredible.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. Yes.
Yes.
It's like a Cop 1.
You can do a double bill for both of those. Would be great.
Yeah. It might be a bit.
Are they 90s films? Yeah, they're 1990s or the 80s.
89, the first one. But it's a wisecracking killer. So it's kind of, and he's got really bad. It's kind of like if you think Maniac Cop, but crossed with Freddy Krueger, a late Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like that. I mean, I've reviewed the first Psycho Cop on Hysteria Lives. Psycho Cop 2, I haven't watched. I do have it, and I want to watch it, but I know it's very much cut, and I think I've managed to get hold of an uncut version.
Baby Jesus has one.
I'm not that kind of doctor.
Okay.
Oh, yes. See, I didn't even pick up on that innuendo until he played Mr. Williams again.
So I have to help out. I have to lend a helping hand to my friends.
Matron, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
What's the last one?
That's not going to get old at all.
No,
it won't. I'm serious.
So, James, can you help out with the Saturday Night Cleaver link for James, Justin, if you have time?
Send me his contact details, and I'll send it over to him. I mean, anyone else who wants to hear it again, I've sent it out to.
I do need to put that on the Facebook page, though. I think would be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe I'll.
There's a lot of people been asking for it.
Yeah, James, if you go to Hysteria Lives Facebook page, and we'll put it on the Hysteria Continues one as well, and I'll just do a link to that, so you can download it for free. So I hope you enjoy it. So thanks for writing in, James. And Joseph, have you got one last one for us?
Yeah, I got one more. It says, esteemed slasher aficionados, I'm a huge fan of slasher films, and I love the fact that you have covered some of the more obscure ones. I've heard all of your episodes now except for Island of Blood, and your show is a must listen. It was the Deep Red eyeball episode in particular that made me write you. Deep Red was the first giallo I saw, and I have never looked back. Through that, and a long story, I met my friend Richard, who runs Doomed Moviethon and Cinema Somnambulist, and we started our own podcast. More about that in a second. Listening through all the episodes, and I put off listening as long as I can, the Hysteria Continues is like gold. You fellows obviously know your slasher stuff, and I was very glad to discover that you know your giallo too. Your top 3 giallo lists were fantastic, and I love, once again, your mixing of better-known films like Torso with underseen gems like So Sweet, So Dead. Eyeball is my favorite of Lindsay's giallo, although I don't know why. It is definitely in the fun giallo camp, and there's something about it that I can't quite put my finger on. You also get bonus points for mentioning George Rigaud, the arcane sorcerer, and Paul Nashi. The theme to Eyeball is also the theme to the great Nashi Cast podcast. You should check out if you haven't. I could go on about Grant, Susie, and Toya, the fact that I wish I had known Nathan and Joseph when I lived in Tennessee, cats flushing toilets, Dana Kamel, and on, but I don't want to take up more of your time. My wife Elizabeth and I love the show. Please keep them coming. My friend Richard and I do a horror podcast, and I'd love for you guys to check it out.
Matron, please, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Okay, please keep them coming. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, it says, my friend Richard and I do a horror podcast, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. He sent the link to the Podomatic page, which I will check out, and after I listen, I will definitely...
What's the name of the podcast?
The Podomatic page, it's hellodoomedshow.podomatic.com. It's HELLODOOMED show.podomatic.com.
Excellent. Well, check that out.
It says, thank you, gentlemen. Keep up the good work. Brad. P.S. I'm hoping to score a copy of Teenage Wasteland for Christmas. Fingers crossed.
All good.
Thank you, Brad.
All good booksellers. So, thank you, Brad.
I have listened to that Nashi Cast podcast on occasion, and I did twig that Eyeball was their theme music. I'm guessing it must have been used in some Paul Nashi film as well.
It's a bit strange choice, isn't it? Because it was in so many films. But yeah, fantastic bit of music. Bruno Nicolai, I think, if I'm not very much mistaken. Okay, well, have we got any... we haven't got any other feedback, have we?
No, not this week. No. That's it.
Okay. Well, do write in, and we're up to... Where are we up to? We're up to the 2 3/4 hour mark, so another epic.
Wow.
Unlike the last Slumber party, but we'll excuse that, and we will move on, and we'll say thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to play out. We're playing out with some more music, are we, from the last Slumber party? Is that right?
Yes, First Strike, Just a Nightmare.
First Strike.
Gosh, well, here we go. Well, thank you for listening, and join us next time for more of The Hysteria Continues. Take care, and bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Close your eyes. You may not wake to see the light.
please. I'm not that kind of doctor.